November 30th.
Yeah, it hadn't quite hit. Maybe it was July we were there, and the it just seemed like kind of ominous. Like it's everyone is just preparing and strapping in. I got a old high school friend called me up, said he's moving back to Florida, and Lisa's first comment was, "Wow, what a time to move back to Florida right now." So
Yeah. That was some of the commentary of our friends in Denver when we moved back to Mississippi was very similar to that of don't you have to worry about hurricanes and tornadoes and mosquitoes and bugs generally? And we were like, yeah. Um,
it's better than hypodermic needles. Got him.
well, hypodermic needles aren't a force of nature. You just have to be careful where you are. But yeah, there's really nothing like that in the rest of the country. I know tornadoes aren't necessarily that way, but hurricanes, and I even feel like it's definitely more of a Gulf Coast thing, of course, Gulf of America thing than an East Coast thing. But we have seen some pretty significant East Coast hurricanes in our lifetimes.
Yeah, I remember a couple of ones that have made it up to like New Jersey and New York and caused a little bit of havoc, but not a whole lot. Yeah, it seems like our storms, like we just got done with tornado chasing and watching that nerdy kid, whatever his name is. I actually like his streams. Max
Max
Velocity.
velocity.
That's it. Yeah. Watching him, and now it's time for hurricane season. This kid's got a 24/7 job already.
Yeah, he does. And he's pretty good at it.
I agree. I feel like you're always in the know with him. Well,
Yeah, seems to know his stuff.
that's right. He's graduating meteorology school this past spring, but I think he's probably just going to continue streaming because it's more lucrative than
I would. Why would you do anything else?
being the Tuscaloosa weatherman.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's some fame that comes along with being a really good, metro weatherman. Like James Spann in Alabama is really famous. But, not famous enough that you know who he is.
Nope, no idea. Yeah. Well, weathermen aside, how are you doing?
Good. Good. I can't, honestly, hard to believe it's already Tuesday again.
I disagree with that. I had a very long week where I did a lot of stuff that I like to do, a lot of stuff that I don't like to do but have to do, and it feels like it's been multiple weeks. But with the events that are happening around the world, it was like every other day was a new different meeting or whatnot that's going on.
Yeah, lots of meetings. Lots of calendar keeping right now.
Well, what's funny, and I'm talking about like Alaska Summit and stuff that
Oh
happened
yeah.
after
Yeah,
our
that's what I'm
show.
talking about too.
And then these meetings. What's funny is the mainstream media's reaction to this and the biases that are evident in their reporting of it is just it's almost comical. Like all of the old talking points of Russia have all of a
Yeah.
sudden reemerged overnight, and it was like I thought we were past this whole concept and that, but it's like they surge with a vengeance after this whole meeting in Alaskan Summit. So did you watch any of the Alaska Summit or at least catch a video of how it went down?
Yeah, I watched some of it. I watched the final presser afterward, and let's see. I saw some of the coverage of Putin arriving and that kind of thing, but other than that, there really wasn't too much other than him arriving and the presser that I really realized.
Servicewomen on their hands and knees rolling out a red carpet for a vicious dictator and a thug. The president of the United States
You've
clapping
been
for
watching
him.
too much MSNBC.
This is CNN. This is CNN. So I can't even imagine what MSNBC was doing.
Well, I've got a CNN clip actually,
Okay.
and I thought it was an interesting. I thought it was interesting to say the least about it. But it's a body language expert on CNN, and there are three clips here, and let's hear what the body language expert has to say. And then if you have any, do you have any clips around the meeting?
I have a Jake Tapper monologue post meeting. So
Okay, well, I think the body language clip will kind of give a rundown of the meeting itself. So let's do it first, and then we'll listen to Jake Tapper, and then I've got a kind of a little analysis about the meeting. I don't know if you've got any thoughts about it, but we'll talk about it after we run some of these clips.
I got a lot of clips about this and the conversation surrounding it. Even our old friend,
analysis of the meeting.
Yeah, like I got some our old friend John Mearsheimer. He was on a show.
Oh, so. Yeah. He was on
Breaking Points.
Was it Breaking Points?
Yeah. It's hard to tell.
No, he was on Democracy Now!
Oh, I have him from Breaking Points. And it's hard to tell if it's Breaking Points for the
Hill really?
Because the people, interchange between the different outlets. So
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, good. We'll go through a lot then, and then we'll get to talk about it. But let's do Body Language CNN to initiate this whole segment.
Smiles, hand pats, postures, and a pat on the back even. What does it all mean? There was a lot to take note of in the body language between President Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin at Friday's Alaska summit. Those nonverbal cues from the two leaders. Here with us now to help break it all down, body language expert Mary Civillo. Mary, great to see you.
What a gig.
Sometimes
Hi, Frederica.
so much
Right. You.
Wonderful. So much is said sometimes non-verbally. So that's why we have you here. So, a lot of analysts agree that Putin came into this with a great advantage, an invitation to U.S. soil without concessions. The two presidents, meeting on the red carpet that was rolled out, applause even from President Trump, handshakes, even Trump patting the back of the Russian president's hand. So in that sequence, what did you see?
Wait a second. Wait a second. We've got, before we let this lady get into her expertise about how someone looks, do you remember when Biden met Mohammed bin Bonesaw and there was this huge to-do about the fist bump?
Right. Yeah, the fist bump.
Oh, Biden didn't shake his hand. Gave him a fist bump. He's really asserting his dominance over the dictator.
Whoa, what are you talking about? I give the knuckles to all the brown guys.
I was concerned about COVID.
Yeah, that's right. Bump it. I don't want him to bone saw my arm off.
Yes, I thought that was worth mentioning. And of course, Biden went to Mohammed bin Bonesaw. So it's a little different, but just a little comparison, a little historical comparison of the coverage of the difference. And, I would say, and maybe we covered this at the time, a fist bump is more endearing than a handshake.
Of course. It's more informal. It's more friendly than a handshake.
Right.
I will say, to their defense, to the mainstream media's defense, I don't usually clap when my friends come. So, that's a little bit different, but
yeah,
that's just kind of that's how he, like, when he's on stage and like standing,
he
he always claps
to fill time. Yeah,
that's what he does. It's like, I don't know what to do with my hands, so I'll clap.
Right.
Yeah, it's better than Biden listening to soul music.
Okay, let's continue.
All right.
I saw two guys that were coming together, hadn't seen you for a little while. Good to see you. It was all, all systems go. Couldn't be friendlier on both sides. Trump, the gracious host, Putin thrilled to be here.
Mm-hmm. And then, as you see here, they're walking on the red carpet. Eventually, they kind of saunter off to Trump's limo called the Beast. Putin actually smiling, looking very joyful right there in the back seat, almost like making sure to the cameras, you see me here, right? What do you see there?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he from the get-go, and in fact, throughout, he just looked as though it was, this is fantastic. And it is especially pronounced. You really notice it if you think back to Helsinki. Frederica, remember 2018, right. The last time they met? Putin was kind of slouched, in the after thing, and he's just kind of like, all right,
almost like
this
I
is
don't
about
really want to be
restoring
here.
diplomatic relationship. Yeah. So he was, and this time he was like in a candy store, a little guy in a candy, and like, this is fantastic.
I like the little guy comment because he was apparent.
Little guy, yeah.
As soon as I saw Putin, it was apparent that he was wearing lifts. He's a short guy.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that.
Very short, and compared to Trump, I was like, wow, he's taller than I thought. And then he's like, he's got to have sole inserts into his shoes and extra large things to look even remotely that tall. Because I don't even think he's 6 foot. He's 5, like 5'6" or something, 5'7". He's short.
Yeah, but I mean, so is Zelensky.
Oh, Zelensky, when you saw the after meeting, the one that happened on Monday, yeah, when you look at the kind of the class photo that they took together, he's on the same plane as Ursula von der Leyen.
Yeah.
And Georgia Maloney, she can't be more than 5'3". She's tiny.
Yeah. How tall do you think Putin is?
I was actually pulled up a new tab to Google that. I'm going to say 5'7".
He's 5'7". You just told me that you were looking at a tab.
No, I just pulled up a tab to look at it, and I typed it in, and it's 5'7". On the money. Take it to the bank. I don't know. I have a hard time.
Trump would make him look smaller than he probably is around normal people.
Right. And it didn't look like he was that small around Trump. So I figured he had to have been lifted somehow.
Yeah.
That's one thing that he'll never escape is his height. And I know he purposely has tried to compensate for it in many a photo. Putin, that is.
Yeah.
But it's funny that she said little guy, little man.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. She's a body language expert. She knows that height is a large psychological barrier to some people.
That's funny. I never even think about height unless somebody is taller than me, because then it's like, oh, I usually don't look that way when I talk to people. So
right. Okay, well, let's hear the clip titled "Before and After the Meeting." That is.
So, did you see in him kind of surprised that even as the general public, a lot of Americans expressed their surprise at seeing this kind of rollout? Do you feel like Putin was exhibiting surprise, or more so like, yeah, of course this would happen, I'm president? I mean, how do we interpret that?
I think that Putin looks like, and in fact, all the facts suggest that this was already a win, arriving there, and then the fanfare and so forth that you see right there, the red carpet. I mean, he couldn't have asked for a better greeting. And honestly, the outcome, this is just a big win for Putin. I think the biggest contrast, Frederica, was the before and after. So when you look at this is all systems go, everybody ready, two leaders that are ready to get some work done. That's the way the body language looked. The afterwards was so much more pronounced with Trump. If you look at the two of them at the podiums, at their separate podiums, Trump was just much more subdued. He was as Putin. He deferred as the host. He defers to Putin. Let Putin start out. Putin goes on into Alaska history and being neighbors and neighborly and all of that. And you've seen people at a conference table, and when somebody else is talking that's not saying anything particularly interesting or anything that you really like, and Trump 90% of the time was sitting there standing there at the podium, looking out into the audience, kind of, yep.
Bracing.
Yep.
Okay.
It basically didn't move the needle until certain points.
Oh.
Yeah, because he didn't get what he wanted.
Yeah, but if you think about watching Trump in the debates, he looks out into the audience almost as if that's how he focuses on what's being said. until something is said that demands a response from him. And Putin didn't say anything that demanded a response.
No, he did his usual. Here's a history lesson for 8 minutes.
Yes.
It was really just kind of like, oh, great, that's awesome. Yeah, but no, Trump grabs the podium usually, and like every now and then he looks over at the guy who's talking. That's like his debate kind of style. Looks over, looks back out of the crowd, or do something with his eyebrows. Big eyebrow guy, that Trump is. Ugh.
Yeah. Okay. So last thing, and I feel like she's covered basically everything that's happened in passing, at least. But the last thing is this invitation that Putin extends at the end.
At the end of the press conference, Putin seems to surprise Trump. That's my interpretation, but I'd love to hear yours. Seemed to surprise Trump by speaking
He seems to surprise him when Trump literally says, "Oh, wow."
English, and then saying next time Moscow. Take a listen.
Again, Mr. President, I'd like to thank you very much, and we'll speak to you very soon and probably see you again very soon. Thank you very much, Vladimir.
Next time in Moscow.
Oh, that's an interesting one. I don't know. I'll get a little heat on that one, but I could see it possibly happening. Thank you very much, Vladimir. And thank you all. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, what did you read there?
Ooh, that's interesting. I can get in a lot of trouble on this one. Not sure what I think about that. I mean, Trump handled it very, very well. It was, no commitment there. But Putin certainly was ready with that. He had planned that. He had. And Trump, that was, so he got a little reaction there. That's where Trump engaged with him, had eye contact. But the vast majority of the time that Putin was speaking, he did nothing but stare out. The only time he would do a torso turn every once in a while, he would kind of do one of these like that, and he kind of like.
I gotta have you on here more because this is just so enjoyable.
Turn back,
yeah. Okay, Mary Savello.
Wasn't working the way he wanted it.
No, it wasn't.
Who knows about next time?
That's right. Okay, we'll have you back because there may be more meetings. Who knows if it's going to be involving Putin, but we do know there's one involving Zelensky on Monday. Mary Savello, good to see you. Thank you so much.
Good to see you, Frederica. Thank you.
All right.
All right. So we got the full body analysis covered there.
Yes. Yes, the Trump body analysis. I did think it was entertaining that she called out his torso turn, which he does. He does do that. He doesn't turn really from the head or even the shoulders. He does do a full
body turn,
full torso turn. Thought that was entertaining to point out, and of course, friendly turf to point something like that out on CNN.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, that's what I've got. I thought most of our analysis or our discussion would be about, what actually happened in the meeting, and I thought that'd be a unique perspective to bring on the meeting, and I figured you'd have some stuff. So why don't you take it away and present what you've got?
So the first thing I want to bring up is the CNN has fully bought into the globalist European perspective on Ukraine, and there's no changing that. And this whole ceasefire versus peace agreement discussion, I'll let John Mearsheimer handle. I think it's like obvious, like everyone would know why one side wouldn't go for the other. But John Mearsheimer spells it out for people, and you start to understand why he is doing these smaller podcasts or like Breaking Point and not on the mainstream media, because the mainstream media has so forcefully decided, which side of the aisle that they're on, and it's the European side and not the American side, which is represented by Trump. And so you kind of get these kind of analysis. And this is a Jake Tapper monologue, and it's very, very patronizing of Trump. And, you can tell it's not very sincere or authentic of Jake Tapper, which, I mean, if you're expecting sincere and authentic, you don't really go to CNN. But I'll play this clip here.
I am sure most of you watching the Alaska summit on Friday, no matter what you think about President Trump, I'm sure most of you hoped that he was going to be able to pull off what he seemed confident he could, to get Putin to agree to a ceasefire and then ultimately on a path to end this horrific war on Ukraine. I know that I was hoping that. I mean, who wouldn't want to end this bloodshed? Hundreds of thousands dead, all of it prompted by Putin ordering the invasion of this sovereign nation, Ukraine, in early 2022. Even Trump's nemesis and 2016 rival, Hillary Clinton, said that if Trump were able to pull it off, she personally would nominate him for a Nobel Peace Prize.
Hill dog, here we come. Miss
If he
Frazzledrip.
could end it without putting Ukraine in a position where it had to concede its territory to the aggressor, if we could pull that off, if President Trump were the architect of that, I'd nominate him for a Nobel Peace Prize.
You know, let's be honest, Secretary Clinton didn't say that thinking that she would ever have to do such a thing. When and if there is a peace deal, Russia will almost certainly get something. And it could be argued that one can't fault President Trump for hoping for the best and for trying for peace. President Trump thought that his relationship with Putin was different.
Sorry.
We have to think about that exact sentence, that quote. One can't fault President Trump for hoping for the best and hoping for peace.
Trying for peace.
Wow. Such a limb to go out on there, Jake.
It's patronizing. It's incredibly patronizing. And it's just funny because it's like, we can't fault him, you know. And then I cut him out, but it was all these other presidents of saying that they can work with Putin, and all of them kind of realizing they couldn't later on. But it's just the way that it's phrased. It's like, this is the president of the United States, and you're supposed to be a mainstream media outlet that delivers, fact-based information, and it's quite clear that you can't stand the guy. You don't like anything about the guy. So it's whose team are you really on? Whose team? And, this is coming from this angle that Trump is still probably a Russian stooge in the CNN angle of it. There's going to be more coming, but that's just the general vibe that you get from listening to CNN. So I'll drop it right here.
And it could be argued that one can't fault President Trump for hoping for the best and for trying for peace. President Trump thought that his relationship with Putin was different. He thought he could call Putin and end the Ukraine war just like that. On the campaign trail, he pledged to do so in his first 24 hours as president. He was not able to. Last month, it did seem that President Trump was finally understanding
the globalist
truth
point of view
about his Russian counterpart.
Yeah.
We get a lot of bullshit thrown at us by Putin, for you want to know the truth. He's very nice all the time, but it turns out to be meaningless. I'd get home, I'd say, First Lady, I had the most wonderful talk with Vladimir. I think we're finished. She'll say to me one time, wow, that's strange because they just bombed a nursing home.
Exactly.
So I cut the clip there just because it was getting long, but I'll play the next part. So this comes right after. So he says, oh, that's strange because they just bombed a nursing home. Jake Tapper goes, exactly. And then this happens.
And 4 days ago, President Trump said this.
Did you hear that?
And 4 days ago, President Trump said this.
The little laugh in there?
Yeah, I caught it.
He hates the guy. Hates him.
Will Russia face any consequences if Vladimir Putin does not agree to stop the war after your meeting on Friday?
Yes, they will. Yeah.
What will the consequences
There will be
be?
consequences.
Sanctions, tariffs?
There will be, I don't have to say, there will be very severe consequences.
Very severe consequences. Now, President Trump tried carrots in addition to threatening sticks. The summit was, of course, a welcome back to Putin from exile into the United States. Navy jets escorting Putin's plane. American service members literally rolling out a red carpet. Trump applauded. He shook Putin's hand. He invited him into the presidential limo. But nothing concrete was announced after the summit. Certainly no ceasefire. So what about those very severe consequences since Putin didn't agree to stop the war? Friday night, Trump said, never mind, at least for now.
I think I don't have to think about that. Now, I may have to think about it in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something, but we don't have to think about that right now.
And based on recent White House communications, it seems that Trump is now on Putin's page, saying that he wants the goal of a larger peace deal that allows Russia to keep fighting, instead of the immediate ceasefire deal that Ukraine and Europe and, just a few days ago, Trump had considered vital. Here's the big question. Did President Trump, whose desire for this bloodshed to end is no doubt sincere, did he actually just make peace less likely? Carl Bildt, the co-chair of the European Council on Foreign Relations, former Prime Minister of Sweden, posted on X, quote, "It's official. Trump has capitulated to Putin by dropping the demand for a ceasefire. Instead, the fighting will go on until there is a peace agreement that satisfies Putin. This was a hugely successful outcome for Putin. We are heading towards a longer war," unquote. Now, we do not know if that will happen, but those who have been skeptical of Putin have a close to unblemished track record. If Carl Bildt proves correct, and this ultimately means a longer, bloodier war, well, the summit might, in retrospect, seem catastrophic.
Catastrophic. So
that's unbelievable.
It's
not even entertaining. It's not even good propaganda.
No.
It's just bad. It's just pathetic.
Well, so this is the thing that's completely missing from CNN analysis is they never talk about in any of this thing. And I was watching it religiously, waiting for someone to come on and actually discuss the difference on the honest difference between why a ceasefire and a peace agreement are different and why Russia wouldn't be, able to or wouldn't be willing to do a ceasefire versus a peace agreement. The answer is obvious, but I feel like it needs to be said by these mainstream news agencies. But I feel like they don't say it because if they do say it, it adds this kind of, well, we're actually thinking about what the Russians might be interested in, right? We're actually considering what they're considering, as opposed to they're evil and they must be stopped at all means necessary. And you get the mainstream media calling for like actual American Article 5 boots on the ground in Ukraine. Like that's the level that we're at. I saw one of the senators, I can't remember, Democratic senator, saying he would support that, American boots on the ground. And it's like, this is nuts. Like not only have we made more progress in the last 2 weeks than we've had over the last 3 years, now you're actively you're trying to dismantle that entirely and call for a World War III, which is what would happen if we put boots on the ground in Ukraine. So cool heads prevailed, and I saw that John Mearsheimer was on Breaking Points, and John Mearsheimer is not a brief man, nor is...
No, he is not.
Nor are
we pretty much have one episode where it's just John Mearsheimer talking, and I think I wanted to call it like Dan's history lesson or something.
Pretty much. It was an hour and a half of playing John Mearsheimer clips, but it was informative.
It was early.
It explained what happened in 2022 with the invasion and what led up to it, and it provided the history and the context behind it. So when CNN is critical of Trump saying you don't take on a country that's 10 times bigger than you, and they say, well, let's be clear, Russia invaded Ukraine, you understand why Russia invaded Ukraine. You understand the history behind it, because history didn't start in 2022. In fact, it started when God built the earth about 2,000 years ago. But, it's like the perspective of the mainstream is they're unable to see before 2022 any sort of actions. I've heard claims like, see, it's not about NATO because, Finland joined and they share a border with Russia. And it's like, oh, yeah, where's Moscow in relation to Ukraine versus Finland, okay? Look at a map. For Christ's sakes, look at a map.
Tuesday is News Day.
Darn it.
Let me ask you to
always
look again
mix those
at the
up.
map.
I know, I do. All right, so here I took this 41-minute segment of John Mearsheimer because he nor the hosts of Breaking Points are brief, and I broke it down into 3 clips that are consumable and no longer than 2 minutes. So peace agreement versus ceasefire, I think everyone already understands this, but just for coverage sake, I'm going to play it.
It's important to understand that there's a difference between a peace agreement and a ceasefire. And really what the Russians want is not a ceasefire because they're winning on the battlefield. What they want is a peace agreement. And what the West wants and the Ukrainians want is a ceasefire. And Trump tried to convince Putin that what we need here is a ceasefire. And what resulted is that Putin said there will be no ceasefire. We have to have a peace agreement. And in fact, Trump has now backed off from demanding a ceasefire. And he said to someone after the meeting that the best solution to this problem is to go directly to a peace agreement. In other words, putting the ceasefire that the Ukrainians and the Europeans and many people in the United States want aside. He's saying that's a non-starter after having talked to Putin. So I think in terms of the clip that you just showed, that's the most important substantive point.
And can you unpack for people why Ukraine would be reluctant to reach a peace agreement versus an immediate ceasefire? Like what
This is important.
Yeah, it's very important.
What's the advantage of one over the other to Ukraine?
Well, the advantages of a ceasefire are mainly that Ukraine is losing on the battlefield, and the West cannot do much to help it at this point in time. So if you can create a ceasefire, put an end to the fighting on the battlefield, that gives the Ukrainians a respite, number one. And number two, it allows them to get more arms from the West to build up their forces and then put up a better fight against the Russians moving forward once the fighting restarts. In other words, once the ceasefire ends. But the Russians are not Dumkovs, and they understand if they're winning.
That's a Russian word, and I'm pretty sure you know its meaning.
Yeah.
It would be nuts, to put it bluntly, for them to stop the war when they're winning, allow the Ukrainians to recover, and then fight more effectively at some point down the road.
So there you go. And that lays it out perfectly why a ceasefire is a non-starter and why it was a huge strategic blunder for Trump to even consider going in there asking for a ceasefire. The Russians are winning. Right before this meeting, the Russians had an advance of something like 15 kilometers. We played it last week of territory gains and pushing back the Ukrainians. And the Ukrainians are pretty much in a dug-in kind of position. They're not advancing forward. They're not trying to take land. What they're trying to do is hold on to the land that they do have. And so a ceasefire in this case would pretty much be a timeout while Ukraine reloads, and Russia's not going to go for that. But they will go for is a peace agreement, which is to begin discussions to wind down the war. And the mainstream media has a problem and a hard time wrapping their heads around that concept because they fail to ever look at it from perhaps the Russian perspective, which you have to do in a negotiation. And I think the globalists, before that pre-meeting that they had and the phone call that he had with the European Union, they all were like, you got to push a ceasefire. You got to push a ceasefire. And Trump sided with the globalists, the European globalists, and said, all right, we're going in with a ceasefire. And then when Putin immediately didn't go for that for this very obvious reason that John Mearsheimer laid out, it was like the whole meeting was a bust at that point. And that's why Trump comes out and says, well, there's no deal till there's a deal. And almost kind of washes his hands of it, of the whole thing, saying it's going to be the Europeans and Vladimir Putin that figure it out.
Yeah. And I think there was some element, I think all of this points to there being some element of Vladimir showing Trump in some way that they're not performing as poorly as his intelligence indicates.
Well, that's the thing is it's like, I don't know, it's like a boat, it's like a house with bad bones, a house with a bad structure, nothing's square or whatever. You can throw as much money as you want, but the leaks are still going to happen because the issue is at the foundation of it. The issue is is how the whole thing's structured. And so there's no amount of money or nothing that you can give to Ukraine short of, this war is going to become our war, hence World War III, that will actually win it for Ukraine. Ukraine is not in a position to fight. And so the mainstream media has been constantly hitting everyone over the head this week and say, because Trump said, you don't take on a country 10 times bigger than you, implying that Ukraine took on the fight, and then saying, well, Russia invaded. But if the mainstream media was honest, they would tell you that there were active negotiations between Ukraine and Russia, the kind of negotiations that are going on today, only Russia has a better hand to play today because they have more ground inside of Ukraine. But the negotiations, all right, what's his name? Boris Johnson from the UK comes in and says, don't negotiate, we'll back you, we'll fight them, we'll win. And Volodymyr Zelensky comes in and says, okay. And now he's left hanging out dry. It is kind of his fault because he listened to the suicidal globalists of dying Europe and decided to go along with their plan. So, to rewrite history in a way where Russia is evil, 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 terrible, 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 and this war just came out of nowhere in a vacuum is, I think, an absolute abortion of the truth. Is that a phrase? It is now.
Sure.
And it's irresponsible journalism, I think, to the highest degree. Despite what you're trying to get a point across the point of the globalist point of view, you can still argue for the globalist point of view, but to not even present a counter narrative of why this is happening, it's just bad journalism entirely.
I agree. It's journalism with an agenda.
That's right.
But the question you have to ask yourself is, if peace makes them so desperate, what's the next step? Do they give up and go quietly into the night? Or is there something else up their sleeves? There's already the reporting that as soon as Putin got back to Moscow, he started attacking Ukraine again, trying to rile Trump up because they know Trump can be riled up by the media.
When he got back to Russia, he started attacking Ukraine again because Ukraine and Russia are in a war. You know what I mean?
But I'm not saying that's the facts of the matter. I'm saying that's the reporting. The attacks never stopped. But it's being reported as the attacks resumed as soon as Putin got back to Moscow in an attempt to get under Trump's skin.
Oh, for sure. It is all ego driven, but to say that, to imply that Russia is not serious about peace because they attack Ukraine, was like, of course they're going to continue to attack Ukraine and improve their position before negotiations. That's how it works.
Yeah, I'm aware.
So, I don't know. Anyway, this is Mearsheimer kind of saying that Trump is washing his hands of it, and I kind of agree because I think he's kind of realized that he can't push the globalist agenda and make an agreement with Putin. And if he doesn't push the globalist agenda, then he's just going to be accused of pretty much being a Putin stooge, and that's the rock and the hard place that he finds himself in. So I'll have John Mearsheimer explain that point.
I think in a very important way, Trump has come to understand that he can't settle this one, right? There's no way he can agree, Trump, to a peace agreement and convince the Ukrainians, the Europeans, and the Western foreign policy establishment that that's the smart thing to do, right? And he can't convince Putin to agree to a ceasefire. So what can Trump do? And of course, what Zelensky says he should do is put secondary sanctions on Russia. And we can talk about that because this meeting was in good part about secondary sanctions and Trump's interest in secondary sanctions in the past. But Trump understands, he was asked afterwards what this means for secondary sanctions. There are going to be no secondary sanctions, at least at this point, says Trump. So the sanctions are off the table. The ceasefire is off the table. And Trump has basically agreed with Putin that you got to go directly. He said this, you got to go directly to a peace agreement. So Zelensky comes to the White House. What does this mean? He's basically saying, I believe that Zelensky and the Europeans can now sit down with Putin and they can work this out. If they need me, I'll be there, but it's up to them. I'm not going to cut a deal and then try and force it down the throats of the Ukrainians and the Europeans because they don't want to go along with me. So if you listen to the press conference, this is what you were playing. He said, it's ultimately up to them. He said he's going to call NATO, he's going to call the Ukrainians. But what happens is, and these were his words in the clip that you played, it is ultimately up to them. Very important words.
Yes.
And I think Trump just understands he can't solve this one. And he's correct. He can't solve this one. He might have been able to solve it if he had been strategically smart from the get-go. But since he took office on January 20th up to now, he has behaved in a remarkably foolish and uninformed way in terms of dealing with the Russians. What he finally figured out yesterday after talking to Putin, he should have figured out before he moved into the White House.
So there you go. Given kind of giving Trump a rough time there is John Mearsheimer. John Mearsheimer has been a pretty big critic of Trump because he's kind of continued the neocon tactics of his predecessors. So, and it all started with his handling of Iran and Israel as well. So he's kind of one of those guys where, before he was this rabid right-wing pro-Putin guy, but now he's no longer viewed as such in the media. But he's still not invited on the show because he says good things about the Russians. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So after the summit happens, everyone's doing their media analysis, and then all of the European leaders come to the United States with Zelensky for this meeting on Monday. And now that is sold to us by the mainstream media as being all of these European leaders coming to confront Trump, right? Because everyone knows the weak man is the guy who stays where he is, and everyone comes to him to confront him, right? So what it really looked like, from my perspective, is all these Europeans are coming and be like, okay, what now? What are we doing now, Daddy? You know what I mean? That kind of thing. But as John Mearsheimer points, I think the meeting on Monday was for Trump to basically say, like, look, it's your guys' thing now. We don't want to fund it. We won't fund it. And I can't end it. We found that out on Friday. So it's your guys' job. So everyone comes into the United States, and then that's this meeting on Monday. And so there's a whole secondary round of analysis and freak out surrounding what's going on. And for that, CNN had none other than everyone's favorite, most famed neocon, John Bolton. I guess famed neocon living, John Bolton. And John Bolton has a couple of things. So during
Would you say the mustache of neoconnery?
The mustache of neoconnery. And CNN, it's not a good set for him because their main color at CNN is red. And John Bolton's hair is white, but his face is red. And I was watching it on my little kind of stream computer here where I can watch the news. And I was like, oh, man, I have to adjust the color of my monitor because, it looked like it was over red. Like John Bolton's face was too red. But that's actually just John Bolton's face. It's very, very red. So that's from all the shouting, I think, that he does in his at his wife and at the TV. But I will play this. This is John Bolton, why Russia won't sign off on this. And it's a little bit of John Mearsheimer, but it's a little bit more of the globalist neocon perspective.
We have former National Security Advisor for President Trump and former U.S. Ambassador to the UN, John Bolton, and CNN Chief National Affairs Correspondent Jeff Zeleny. Ambassador, what did you think of the meeting? Did you think that it went well, better than it could have gone for sure?
Well, I would say it was a normal meeting, which is progress. But remember what the iconic French Foreign Minister, the Marquis de Talleyrand, once told his young diplomats: don't get too enthusiastic in your work. And I've always found that good advice. They had a normal meeting. That's great. Now let's see what happens.
You, in an op-ed you wrote for the Wall Street Journal, talked about the silver lining being that a ceasefire not being reached in Alaska actually helps Ukraine. Help us understand why.
Well, I think a ceasefire along the existing front lines on the battlefield, then followed by what could well be very extensive negotiations lasting months, years, could turn that ceasefire line into the new Ukraine-Russia border. There's always a risk of that. It's happened in numerous other UN peacekeeping operations, in the case of Korea in the 1950s. So there's a big caveat to that, which to carry on the war, Ukraine still has to have necessary military support from Europe and the United States. It sounds, so far at least, like that could continue. I don't think the Russians are going to negotiate really seriously until they suffer reverses on the battlefield. Putin thinks he's on a roll now, and they are gaining small amounts of territory at an exorbitant human cost. I think if the movement of the troops was in the other direction, he'd be a lot more eager to talk.
Yes, I believe if Russia was losing the war, he would be eager to talk. Great analysis, John Bolton. These people, I'll tell you. So there was this big hullabaloo, and the European leaders kept saying it and repeating it at the meeting because they wanted to emphasize how important it was. You know, they're all confronting Trump now at this meeting, and so they kept throwing around this Article 5 like guarantee for Ukraine. Article 5 like guarantee. Now, John Bolton does two things in this clip. He first says, "I can't wait to hear MAGA supporters' reaction to it," and then he also mentions about Article 5 that it's not as permanent, or it doesn't sign us up for as much as people think it does on the basis of it. And this is an interesting analysis because I didn't actually know this about Article 5. So I'll let John Bolton play it, but it's kind of like this weird zigzag where he goes down one road and then says, well, wait a minute.
And then also this idea that there would be some kind of Article 5-like agreement between allies of Ukraine to intervene if Russia were to advance its incursions down the road. Is that actually enough to keep Vladimir Putin away from his ambition of remaking the Russian imperial order?
I think we're a long way from any of that. I can't wait till the MAGA base hears that Donald Trump has committed American combat forces, U.S. forces against Russian forces on the line in Ukraine if the Russians violate the ceasefire. One nuclear power directly against another nuclear power. I don't think that's what they signed up for with Donald Trump, and I don't think he's necessarily thought through that implication either. He wants a Nobel Peace Prize, and he wants it now. So he's willing to say a lot of things. He didn't really commit to anything. You could have all kinds of U.S. troops in Ukraine, as we did before the invasion. We had train and assist missions. They weren't there to fight anybody. They were there to train the Ukrainians. That's very different from a combat force. And in terms of Article 5, Steve Witkoff said this yesterday in an interview with Jake Tapper. I've listened to that portion of the interview several times. I don't understand it at all, because Witkoff started with Article 5 and then started talking about enshrining a Russian commitment not to take more territory in Ukraine, not to take any other territory in Europe in Russian law, which doesn't have anything to do with Article 5 or Article 5-like guarantees. Moreover, and I hate to raise this point, but the question of what Article 5 actually means in a non-NATO context, very much up in the air. And so you'll forgive me, I'll read 6 words from Article 5. That the parties, when one is attacked, it's one attack on one is an attack on all. What do? They are, quote, to take such action, each party, take such action as it deems necessary. As it deems necessary. And then it says, including the use of armed force, meaning you're not required to use armed force. You could, or you could send a note saying, that's terrible, do let us know how it turns out.
A lot of wiggle room there,
That's
as
right.
you point out.
That's correct. And that is exactly why the Trump campaign is using it. Because we are not going to put boots on the ground in Ukraine, but as long as we can get people to think that we might, that's the benefit of the Article 5.
And Trump himself said, these, will probably be involved with air support because that's where we are the best. Basically, that's what he said. So there hasn't been any, John Bolton said it himself, there hasn't been any formal commitment, 1. 2, the intention seems to be to provide air support from the U.S. Air Force.
Yeah. Pretty
Now, I will back up and say that we have been highly critical of any entangling commitments for the United States as a nation. And there are obvious drawbacks to being obliged to go to war for the sake of another country. We've seen the result of that at least once in the past with World War I, not necessarily in the American context, but in the context of this cascade of conflict that occurred in Europe. And there's a real possibility that could happen again. We were critical of this when Lindsey Graham was going on Saudi television and talking about a Middle Eastern NATO and how the U.S. would provide security guarantees in Article 5, per se, for Saudi Arabia. So it's definitely not a great idea to guarantee security, but Trump himself has also said that the majority of this would be handled by Europe.
Right. Basically, it's your backyard. You guys deal with it. We're not going to deal with it. And that I guess wishy-washiness is what the media is really seizing on with this Article 5 guarantee, and John Bolton effectively calling it what it is. I hate to agree with John Bolton, but it is effectively just words. It doesn't really mean anything. Doesn't really commit us to anything. And I think that's why they use Article 5 like guarantee, because they know that the actual Article 5 has that clause in there as it deems necessary. So we'll see what the globalists try to push for. I think that Trump is, in actuality, not going to get us into this sort of guarantee where we must send boots on the ground or must put planes in the sky. But I think this is also kind of this cohesive group, and it really feels like the globalists have just kind of grabbed a hold of them and said, you can't negotiate this. You have to push for a ceasefire, which was an instant non-starter, and back and forth. But actually, during the meeting that occurred, Trump called Putin. There's a phone call with Putin, and to ask the question is I can't think of her name right now, but one of the CNN anchors is on with Alexander Stubb, who's the president of Finland, and she asks him about the phone call.
And now the president of Finland, Alexander Stubb, as I promised, is with me because he was inside that meeting with Trump and Zelensky today, sitting next to Zelensky across from Trump. Finland, a crucial country for NATO and Europe, sharing an 830-mile border with Russia. In fact, it is the longest European border with Russia, and Finland is part of NATO. So, as we made the point before, it's not about NATO. Even though Putin may say sometimes that it is. President Stubb, I appreciate your time. I'm so glad to talk to you again. I know it has been a long day, and you had to be flexible and go with the flow. Some things happened, unexpected timing, and which speaks to the moment that we're in, the uncertainty. So at one point in this meeting, you're in the room across from Trump. You're sitting next to President Zelensky. And Trump at one point calls Putin in a call that Russia now says was 40 minutes long. I'm so curious, Mr. President, was there any conversation in the room about that call? Did Trump talk to you beforehand about it or after he got off the phone with Putin?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, this was very much a day of Team Europe and Team US together supporting Ukraine. So first, us Europeans, we had a pre-meeting, and then after that, Zelensky had a bilateral meeting with President Trump. And then we spent the better part of 4 hours together with President Trump sussing out what we can do next. And one of the plans was for President Trump to tell President Putin basically what we had decided in the meeting. So yes, it was very coordinated and very constructive.
So you're saying that call, when the meeting sort of got paused, it sounds like what you're saying is because of the conversation that you're having in the room, that you all sort of said, okay, he said, all right, well, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I'm going to go call him now. You guys were all in agreement with it? This is sort of how it sort of organically played out?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so basically there were 3 outcomes of today. The first one was a good conversation on security guarantees. In other words, security guarantees by Europe and coordinated with the United States for Ukraine, and we start that work on concrete things immediately. The second one was a suggestion of a bilateral meeting between Zelensky and Putin, and that was what President Trump was testing with President Putin, and President Putin had agreed to do that meeting. And then the third step is after the bilateral meeting, if everything goes well, which is of course always a big if when you're dealing with Putin, there will be a trilateral meeting. So I think this was one of these meetings where we kind of took, 3 steps forward rather than any backwards.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why, but Aaron Burnett tries to get him to basically say, well, Trump's chatting with Putin while you guys are doing this behind your guys' back. And he's like, no, it was actually coordinated, and I don't know why you would have me on, because I'm actually very friendly with Trump, so. But it's kind of funny. So that goes down about this whole trilateral meeting now, and what Putin did or did not agree to. There was a hot mic incident where Trump effectively says, I think he wants to do a deal for me, as crazy as that sounds. He's telling Macron on the hot mic. And then there's the analysis behind, his ego is basically leading him to believe that Putin is going to cut him a sweetheart deal just because he likes him, that whole thing. So the media landscape right now has been up in a tizzy about all of this, and constantly saying things like, it's not about NATO, right? And they're pointing to Finland to say, it's not about NATO, look at Finland, because Finland is right on their border. And it's really kind of a bad faith argument just based on where Finland is located versus where Ukraine is located. So with Finland, there's a big city called St. Petersburg that is between Moscow and Finland. And that would serve as a very large defensive point for any sort of invasion from the north, from Finland. With Ukraine, there really is not a large city before Moscow when you're entering into Russia. And Moscow is actually fairly close to the Ukrainian border. So there's a lot of different reasons why it does matter that NATO would be in Ukraine. One of it's not just Ukraine, but also the fact that there's many Russians within Ukraine and the westernizing of it. And so they really don't go into this game of risk that we've been playing with the Russians in history at all. And it's not good reporting. And it's actually incredibly frustrating, because I'm watching Abby Phillips saying he wants to reinstate the USSR. He wants to recreate this. Multiple people on CNN are saying, that's always been his stated goal. He said it. He said the downfall of the USSR was the worst thing that ever happened to Russia. In fact, what he actually said was the communism, and so the USSR in general, was the worst thing that happened to Russia, because it led to great poverty and great pain. And so just these conflicting concepts, they're trying to push this westernized narrative. It's not working. It's not working, at least to us, to people like us that know about John Mearsheimer, that don't get their news exclusively from the mainstream media. But this is the 2 movie theaters that you find yourself in with your family. Well, Putin is this evil, horrible thug. He just all of a sudden invaded Ukraine one day.
Did you see Lavrov's troll with the USSR sweatshirt?
That was the whole point that everyone was bringing up. They want to say, and that's Lavrov. Like, we know about Lavrov. We've had Lavrov clips on here. He's a funny guy. He does funny shit like that. He's like a Russian Trump in a lot of respects. But yeah, now that's taken as proof as they want to recreate the USSR. He was wearing a CCCP sweatshirt. Oh my God. Abby Phillips. Abby Phillips on her show. I think Abby Phillips is pretty intelligent. I think she's got the best format of a show on network news, period, which is a huge compliment from me. And she's repeating this garbage talking point of they want to do this, even though they've never said it, stated it, and have actively called the CCP one of the worst decisions for the country. But, who am I to judge? A podcaster, and I will.
Well, basically, we called what it appears is going to happen last week, which kind of feels silly to be talking about this again, even though we're talking about a specific event. But what's going to happen is the Russians are going to get the Donbass, Luhansk, and Donetsk. They might have a land bridge, as you pointed out, between the Donbass and Crimea. If they don't, they'll be guaranteed safe passage or given some concession that allows them to more effectively travel between the Donbass and Crimea. And as we've already said tonight, Europe is going to say, yeah, Ukraine, we've got your back. And Ukraine's going to fall for it again. And I wouldn't be surprised if, when Trump leaves office, the Russians hold a referendum or carry out another special military operation where they seize the remaining oblasts all the way down to Crimea.
And, you know, I'm with you on that front. I think that's probably the case, but I can't help but feel that this is reminiscent of World War I to World War II. The wall was torn down, the CCP fell, and instead of treating Russia like a pariah... The USSR fell. And instead of treating them like a pariah on the world stage, we should have welcomed them in, westernized them, and befriended them. And we didn't. And this is just like what Europe did with the Germans after World War I. They levied all of their fines against them. They held them at arm's length, and they didn't embrace them. And World War II happens. And that's exactly what happened. Can you imagine the world today where after it falls, you know, the guy with the weird mark on his head, I forget his name right now, alcoholic dude. You know, Putin effectively rebuilt Russia from the ground up. And imagine if we could have brought Putin in. Gorbachev. We could have brought Putin in, made him a friend, made him an ally, and it could have been Russia and the United States, and we could have been against China. It could have been these two world poles together against China, the rising power.
China would have had to capitulate.
They would have.
They would have been an economic client state from the get-go.
Of course, because they're relying on Russian oil heavily. And so this is the dystopian reality that John Mearsheimer lays out. He's effectively saying, look, we could have been best buds with Russia, and we could have maintained our dominance over the world. We could have been the single polarity of the world by keeping Russia as our friend and by suppressing the growth of China, because China is reliant on energy from Russia and the U.S. But instead, we've done the exact opposite. We've pushed Russia away into China's arms, and now we're saying, oh my God, China and Russia are doing joint military exercises. This is terrible. And it's like, yes, we have actively made ourselves the person on the world stage that no one can trust, that if you either do what we want or we kill you, or we start a war with you, or we destabilize you, or we blow you up. That's confession of an economic hitman. And everyone's saying, well, what the hell? Why don't people want to be our friends anymore? Why doesn't anyone want to join us? We're the good guys. And it's like, look in the mirror and say that to yourself. Do you really think we're the good guys all the time? Russia did invade Ukraine. But you know, the fire might have burnt down the house, right? But somebody had to build the fire, right? The fire didn't just come out of nowhere.
Yeah, and it was the installed Kiev regime that was shelling civilians in Donbass and Luhansk because they wouldn't give up speaking the Russian language, they wouldn't pledge fealty to the new regime, and they wouldn't get rid of the Russian Orthodox Church.
No, we weren't that involved in Russia after the Maidan coup in 2014, right, John?
Right.
Oh, well, here's Victoria Nuland in 2016 talking about the U.S.'s involvement in Russia. Good old Vicky.
And U.S. advisors serve in almost a dozen Ukrainian ministries and localities, helping to deliver services, eliminate fraud and abuse, improve tax collection, and modernize Ukrainian institutions. With U.S. help, newly vetted and trained police officers are patrolling the streets of 18 Ukrainian cities. In courtrooms across Ukraine, free legal aid attorneys funded by the U.S. have won 2/3 of all the acquittals in the countries. Treasury and State Department advisors have helped Ukraine shutter over 60 failed banks and protected the assets of depositors. And since there can be no reform in Ukraine without security, over $266 million of our support has been in the security sector, training 1,200 soldiers and 750 Ukrainian National Guard personnel, and supplying life-saving gear. In FY16, we are continuing that training and equipment of more of Ukraine's border guards, military, and Coast Guard.
It's not about NATO. It's not about Western involvement in Ukraine. It's about Putin's dream of reinstating the USSR. And that's the narrative they want you to believe. They think your stupid pig slop brain will eat that up and say, you know what? You're right. He does want to do the USSR. He's not going to stop at Ukraine. We should have a war. Dumb. Dumb, dumb, dumb.
Yeah, I mean, we've stated this many times.
Yeah.
So back to my question, though, what do you think happens? Do you think we work out the deal and it goes down roughly the way that we expect it to? Do you think that the Victoria Newlands of the world do something to derail this? How do you see this playing out?
Well, I think right now Trump's got a bruised ego. And what I saw after the meeting, there's no deal till there's a deal. The meeting that occurred in D.C., it really did look like a passing of the baton to the Europeans, and that Trump is kind of done working out the deal. That's just right now. You know, Trump does have these kind of pivots of emotion and focus, so that could very well happen. But if we continue down this path, I think the European globalists take on the whole Ukraine conflict, and nothing changes. They keep funding the war. They'll talk about a peace agreement forever, but it's kicking the can down the road. Specifically, if they continue to pursue a ceasefire, which is just not in the interest of anybody, any party. Well, it's not in the interest of the Russians in this thing, so the Russians won't go for it. So,
well, like you said, it's a non-starter. So
exactly,
they'll stop having discussions.
Right. So, yeah, I think the war is going to continue for the foreseeable future. I think it ends when the Russians seize the Donbass region entirely, have their land bridge to Crimea, and it's a day. And I think that at that point, the Russians will probably ask for more, but will be satisfied with that sliver, giving them that entire northern port of the Black Sea, entire northern control of that Black Sea. And then that no longer becomes this kind of NATO stronghold that they were hoping for by building the NATO army base on the Romanian coast on the Black Sea. But, your analysis last week, it doesn't seem like the Black Sea matters as much anymore now to the trip, the trade route through Armenia and Azerbaijan. So I don't know, but that's what I see happening.
Okay. I don't think it'll take too long for us to find out what's going to happen.
That's true. That is true. I think there'll be some signs this week or next week. I think the talks are going to happen. A lot of news is going to come out in the next week or two about the relationship and what's going on. And then from that point forward, we'll know either they're going to go down a peace route or they're going to go down a war route. But for anyone to lie to you and say that there's some weapon or there's some group of people that can help Ukraine win this war, you're being lied to entirely.
You're being strung out.
That's right. You're listening. You're actually believing the news. Don't believe the news. But while we're kind of in Russia, away from the story, there was an explosion at a factory. Actually, first of all, let me get your opinion. Do you think that this is going to play out the way I kind of laid it out? Or what are your thoughts on it?
I think I don't want to predict something good and then be wrong. I'd rather predict a nuclear exchange and be wrong. But I think this pretty well gets settled. And the reason I say that, I really think the trip, the trade route for international peace and prosperity that we discussed 2 shows ago.
Trump route.
Yeah, the Trump route, the Trump trip. I think that was a much larger linchpin than anyone is giving it credit for, than anyone's giving it credit as. And I don't have any really supporting evidence, any additional supporting evidence from episode 181 when we discussed it. But the timing, to me, just screams, and this is just a gut call, of that was Trump's negotiating masterstroke. He seized the leverage over Russia and the pressure they were emitting, not only physical pressure on Ukraine, but also propagandistic and agitation pressure on Romania and Georgia and the like. He circumvented all of that. He undercut their leverage and essentially brought Putin to the table with that deal and said, look, we're going to shift everybody away from Russian oil. We're going to shift India away from Russian oil. And, you know, a few shows back, I thought that it was going to have to be a deal between India and Saudi Arabia. But when Trump came in with this trip route, he probably told Putin, no one's going to need your oil. They're going to get it from Azerbaijan and the stands, not Azerbaijan, through Azerbaijan via the stands. And we're going to actually make you an economic pariah over time. So you can keep this up if you want to, or we can negotiate a deal and you can go out on top, basically.
That's why the idea of secondary sanctions didn't sit well with me last week. And the secondary sanctions would be on people that are buying Russian oil, which would be India,
China.
So it didn't make a lot of strategic sense to me that we would apply secondary sanctions to India for buying Russian oil.
No, we give them an out. We don't need to be applying sanctions to India, and we even said as much when we discussed it that would be a terrible mistake.
Exactly, and I think Trump has backed away from that. You know, after he got himself into a little bit of a pickle prior to the meeting, saying we need a ceasefire. If he doesn't agree, we'll apply secondary sanctions. Now, after the meeting, he realizes that ceasefire is a non-starter, and he's waving around this concept of Russia wants a peace agreement, and he kind of backs himself away from needing to apply secondary sanctions. So, could be,
right. And
could
what
be a good move.
This is an important thing to realize when you're looking at the way Trump does deals. And I don't know how many more opportunities we'll get to see this example. But what Trump realizes when he's making a deal with people, you can't just convince someone that you're right. That's not making a deal. You have to give them an out. You have to give them an opportunity to actually make a good deal. You don't make a deal by coming to the table and discovering some way that both parties benefit. You have to create that. And I think that's exactly what happened here.
Right. Yeah. And the European globalist perspective is you go to the table with your demands, and it's like we're not in a, as Trump would say, we don't have the cards. You know, we're not in a position to make the demands.
The European dopey strategy for making a deal is you go to the table with your pants down.
You take a train there and do coke with all your European buddies. Then your husband has to wipe it off your face, right, Macron?
Yeah, I'm gonna say that we're seeing the end. This is the sunsetting of this chapter of the Russian aggression in Ukraine. I think it will spark back up when Putin sees an opportunity, and I think the Russian people will support him in that. But it'll be the end of this chapter.
He's going to go, if he does invade Moldova, which, you know, would give he's not going to stop Ukraine people of win, at least in their book. I think the whole encircling the Black Sea narrative would come on the table with Romania and Bulgaria. And I think that was the whole idea behind building this military base in Romania. a concept which began in when? 2022. So interesting.
I could see an attempt to agitate Russia in their little breakaway regions in Georgia and Moldova as a last-ditch effort to force them to expand the war. But Putin isn't really a reactive leader. He's very calculated, and he takes his time. He doesn't react to things. So that's probably not going to work.
Yeah. You could see that the Ukraine war didn't go exactly how he planned it initially on the launch, and then he kind of restructured the entire strategy behind it and the military and his economy behind the war, and then really just put things into his favor, relying upon the slow-wittedness and reaction of Europe, and it worked out swimmingly for Russia here. If you guys think I'm like a pro-Russian or Russian stooge, I'm just stating the facts as they lie, as I see them. So, but kind of moving away from this, but staying in Russia and hitting on our old trend of the tit-for-tat factory kind of stuff that happened.
Yeah.
We had that explosion last week at U.S. Steel in Pennsylvania that occurred, and we said it happened in the furnace, and the furnaces do rely on computers for monitoring, and then brought up kind of the Stuxnet angle, like we would have done with Iran and spinning up their centrifuges. Well, an explosion this week happened at a gunpowder factory in Russia, and I thought it was kind of interesting given the timing, so I'll play that.
A blast at a factory in the Russian region of Ryazan on Friday, August 15th, killed 11 people and left 130 injured, Russia's emergencies ministry said. In a statement on Telegram, the ministry said rescuers were continuing to search through rubble at the scene of the blast, 320 km southeast of Moscow. Footage showed injured people being carried on stretchers into ambulances as emergency crews remove pieces of rubble. Ryazan Region Governor Pavel Malkov said on Friday that the incident had been triggered by a fire breaking out inside a workshop at the factory. There was no cause given for the fire, nor was it clear what the factory produced. Ukrainian drones have previously targeted military and economic infrastructure in Ryazan region. Some Russian media outlets reported that the explosion was caused by gunpowder catching fire.
Yeah, in a gunpowder factory, the explosion was caused by gunpowder catching fire. It's probably a good bet. But how did it catch fire? And it's funny because it's like almost the same analysis of Ukraine invasion. Yes, Russia did invade Ukraine, but how and why? So
yes, a statement of the facts is not an analysis.
No, it is not. It is not. It is an understanding of events, causation, and correlation.
Okay, well that's all I've got with the meeting. Let's see here. I do have one international story, and then a lot of my stuff is domestic tonight after the meeting. You want to do that random international story? Do you have any other large international packages that you'd like to show off?
No. I think you've seen my largest package to date so far. But no, yeah, let's do that one random international one.
Okay. Well, the former First Lady, who was married to the martial law president in South Korea. You know, you remember him declaring martial law for like 48 hours, and then people were mad or something, and they, mad in Korean, and he got kicked out of office, and they did what they do in Korea, and now he's on trial. And then his wife was arrested.
Oh, I wonder what for.
South Korea's former First Lady, Kim Kyung-hee, was arrested after a court issued a warrant just before midnight Tuesday. She faces accusations of corruption, which she denies, according to the special prosecutor leading the investigation. Early in the day, Kim, wearing a black suit, bowed upon arriving at court, but did not speak to reporters. The court accepted an argument that she may destroy evidence as grounds for her arrest, according to South Korea's Yonhap News. Kim is the country's first former First Lady to be arrested. She faces a long list of charges, including stock fraud, bribery, and illegal influence peddling. Now, those charges are punishable by years in prison and have also implicated big business owners, religious figures, and a political power broker. Among the accusations, she's alleged to have received 2 Chanel bags and a diamond necklace from a religious group as a bribe in return for influence. Her lawyers did not comment Tuesday, but have previously denied the accusations and dismissed reports about some of the gifts she allegedly received. Kim's husband, ex-South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol, is also in jail, facing trial for multiple charges related to his attempt to impose martial law in December 2024. He too faces charges of abuse of power, among others, but has denied wrongdoing. Yoon could face life imprisonment or even the death penalty.
For 2 Chanel bags and a necklace?
Yeah.
Jeez. My gosh.
That's what I call being mad in Korean.
The death penalty for 2 Chanel bags and a diamond necklace. She should have just, if she wanted that, she should have started an OnlyFans.
Mukbang channel?
I think the Korean version is called OnlyKims.
OnlyKims? Very nice.
Oh, so that's good. That's good. Do you want to thank people, or do you want to go domestic right away?
You know, we could do my Epstein clips and then thank some people just so they're out of the way before the break. So I've got a Ghislaine Maxwell update in the Epstein folder, and I found this interesting. I was gonna clip more on this, and I ran out of time before the show. But these 2 clips will be okay to set up what I want to talk about and what I think is a really interesting story that has sort of bubbled up on social media today. So let's get this update on Ghislaine.
Ghislaine Maxwell, the daughter of the late British fraudster and publisher, competitor of Rupert Murdoch, and Israeli agent Robert Maxwell, who was jailed for 20 years for trafficking women to Jeffrey Epstein to be sexually abused, and took away their passports as part of the whole program, has just been upgraded to Club Fed, and she's now in a minimum security country club style prison where she struck up a close friendship with a former Real Housewives of Salt Lake City star. I think she's in Utah now. So she's gotten a real upgrade under Trump. And this comes as Trump's DOJ, through the number 2 official in the Department of Justice, is mulling a corrupt deal which would grant Ghislaine Maxwell clemency, and in order, obviously, to compel her into exonerating the president in exchange for clemency and favorable treatment. She'll be removed from the sex predator list, the watch list, and she'll just have to say that Trump did nothing wrong, as Trump refuses to release the Epstein files.
I'm a big fan of Club Fed. I think that's going to be a theme on that's going to be a reoccurring term here.
You know, I'm not sure if it's a reoccurring term on the Gray Zone or not. That's the product you're listening to. If it's not, then we should take it, no doubt.
It's ours already.
And we should get clubfed.com or .org or something, or .fun, and keep a list of people like John Brennan, Victoria Nuland, sort of like a Fed wiki.
I'm for it. Anderson Cooper, he's going to be on the list.
Sounds like a lot of work, but you know,
that's the ball in your court. You are the. I'm going to make you project manager of that.
Yeah. Yeah, Mr. Patel. Can I get a few workers? Yeah.
There you go. The back office chat. Hey, you got a new employee over there, I heard today.
Right.
Mr. Bailey.
Right. Okay, so let's hear about Ghislaine's lawyer.
And in a really interesting coincidence, Ghislaine Maxwell's lawyer, David Oscar Marcus, happens to have been mentored by Alan Dershowitz and owes his career to Alan Dershowitz,
Oscar
who is
Mayer?
Jeffrey Epstein's close friend, legal advisor, and a frequent guest at Epstein Island. Dershowitz worked for years to destroy the reputations of Epstein's accusers, including Virginia Giuffre, who died and can't speak for herself.
She was one of the victims.
And now he's pushing for Maxwell to testify. He calls her the Rosetta Stone. The question is, did Alan Dershowitz find time between his now daily pierogi provocations at Martha's Vineyard farmers markets to arrange a deal between the DOJ and Maxwell, whose lawyer was his mentee, that will take the heat off the president for refusing to release the Epstein files? Whatever happens to Ghislaine Maxwell, it's pretty clear that this elite convicted sex predator is one of the only Americans whose quality of life and standard of living has improved under Donald Trump.
I like this guy. He's got a way of speaking that is nice. Although the lawyer's name is Oscar Mayer.
The lawyer's name is David Oscar Marcus.
Oh, I thought it was Oscar Mayer Marcus. I was like, please also be Anthony Weiner's lawyer.
Now that would just be too good.
Oscar Mayer, Senator Weiner's lawyer. You will not believe in what they arrived in today for today's court gate. The Wienermobile, of course.
Have you seen the video of Alan Dershowitz making trouble at the Martha's Vineyard farmers market because the people refused to serve him a pierogi?
No. So I missed the reference. I thought he was just kind of going after him for being a Polak.
No, he actually is suing a pierogi vendor because they wouldn't serve him at a farmer's market.
And that's the kind of place you're trying to get action at, huh? Right? Imagine who would come to your farmer's market and sue you over your pickles. Who of the world leaders that we've spoken of tonight would you refuse to sell pickles to?
I wouldn't sell any of them pickles. Be like, why are you here? Get away from me.
I don't want your money. Go back to Club Fed. Get out of here.
No, my favorite thing to do would probably be just act completely oblivious to who they are and let them become fascinated with me and the fact that I don't know who they are. Very much in the way that, Diogenes fascinated Alexander the Great, because Alexander the Great stood over Diogenes and said, what are you doing? What are you doing here? And what would you ask of me? If you could ask me anything, what would you ask of me, Alexander the Great? And the response is, if you could get out of my sunlight.
Bam. I love it. There's a term for that. I forget what it is today, but when people pretend they don't know who celebrities are, it's called something. I can't remember the name of it. It was not added in the Webster Dictionary list of stupid words that were added today, apparently.
I just put the link. Oh, no, I didn't. I put it in the other room. I guess I haven't been in our room all night. I just put the link to the pierogi incident in the chat room. I don't know if it's going to be worth listening to or not.
Pierogi addict Alan Dershowitz was escorted from a farmer's market stand to Martha's Vineyard after insisting on returning to a vendor who previously refused to serve him and threatened to sue. The fact that they're selling pierogies and not something normal like, a tomato at a farmer's market. That's just funny. That's the funniest part about it.
Pierogi addict is funny.
I do like that. How long is this video? 43 seconds?
Like 45 seconds.
Yeah, let's play it. Let's see what he's on about, shall we?
I have 2 pierogi stands, one for anti-Zionists and one for people who will sell to everybody. So I'd ask you to please just sell me any one of your products to show that you're prepared to sell to anybody and not allow your anti-Zionism to decide which people will sell, you'll sell to.
Ethan, this man is calling me an anti-Zionist.
Excuse me, this man is a saint. I also offer you this book, which
thank you.
I signed it to you. To Krem, please learn the truth.
Thank you so much, Alan. Thank you so much. I'm very surprised that you're here because of the things that you've been saying about us and the business.
No, just you. Yeah.
Online.
So he went back to harass them, basically.
Yes,
and give them a
he
book
did.
on Zionism. Or give them a book on calling. So I imagine a man like Dershowitz is a Zionist, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I see. So he's trying to educate the non-Zionists on why Jewish people are better than everyone else.
No, not non-Zionist, anti-Zionist.
Anti-Zionist, that's right. Either you're with us or against us in this black and white binary world. Very good. Good on the Dersh. Straight off the plane from Epstein Island, off the Lolita Express to go harass some wealthy pierogi salesman at the local farmer's market. Good. That's a good look, Alan. That's why everyone loves lawyers.
Yeah. I also sent another clip of him talking on some show about, I don't know, something to do with this. It's 53 seconds if you want to play it as well.
Where did you send these clips?
The chat room.
Oh, I got you.
Citizen Free Press tweet.
I'm pulling it up.
I said, "Oh, can I have 6 pierogi?" And he said, "No." I said, "Oh, you've run out of pierogi? Too bad." No. We have plenty of pierogi. I just won't sell them to you. What do you mean you won't sell them to me? I won't sell them to you because I don't approve of your politics. I don't approve of who you've represented. I don't approve of who you support. I said, what is it about my politics that you don't? I'm not going to tell you. So that's the book fair. The library has banned my books. The library has banned me. Once they allowed me to talk, once after I defended Trump, but they limited I talked to 20 people. I used to get to, won't allow me to speak at the synagogue. They allow Peter Beinart, of course, but a group came over to him and said, if we ever see you talking to Alan Dershowitz again, you'll never be invited to any events in our homes. And so, I said,
a lot of Germans says, who even recognizes this guy? I mean, maybe on Martha's Vineyard, but I don't think most people would recognize Alan Dershowitz.
I think it's just your New York Times reading type person who would know who he is.
You know what? The pierogi guy is probably a podcast listener, like in the know. Like I know Alan Dershowitz. He's the guy that likes to bang kids with Epstein. No pierogies for you, sir.
That's what the pierogi vendor probably thought, not what Dan is saying.
Yes, that's right. The pierogi Nazi. New Seinfeld episode, calling it. All right, let's thank some people.
Yeah, let's do it.
Millennial Media. Offensive.
We got to talking about Alan Dershowitz, and I didn't even get to the meat of the story I wanted to talk about.
What is the meat of the story you want to talk about?
The meat of the story is Israeli cyber directorate employee arrested in U.S. on suspicion of pedophilia.
That's a pretty big one.
Yeah, and he was allowed to flee to Israel by the Trump administration.
That's a lot of L's, man. Trump is doing a lot of L's for the special people, the chosen people. A lot of W's for them, a lot of L's for the American people. Well, maybe it'll blow up in the news this week after everyone's done talking about Russia. Never know. But you are riding along on The Offensive every Tuesday night at 5:30 p.m. John and I go live and discuss the events that happened the previous week. And we have this conversation live on the internet at stream.mmo.show. And people are joining along in the chat room. And they went to chat.mmo.show and have gotten in and are expressing their opinions. Or we like to think of this as friends sitting around a bar talking about global events in a way that is fun and interesting. And we don't have advertisers when we do this because we don't want to be beholden to Big Pharma. We don't want to sell you watches. We don't want to have you believe that we're using stamps.com. I can't even tell you the last time I sent a letter. So instead of that, we rely specifically on people returning value, and that can come in many forms. It can be information, articles, jingles, clips that we can play on the show. There's also a monetary aspect of the return of the value. You can go to mmo.show/donate to find out various ways that you can give back. We accept fiat and we accept Bitcoin. And then finally, art. Art submission is a big one, and it's where we always like to start off from the previous week. And the previous week was another Wolf victory. Wolf has been popping in and making art for us, and it is always appreciated. Last week, this one was just all right for me. Wolf does some good stuff. This one was funny. It was from the show what we talked about, but I don't know. It was a fine piece, I think.
The cross itself is really well done.
I like it. I do like it. Some people said from afar it kind of looks like a fire extinguisher.
What? Those people need glasses.
Maybe if you squint your eyes, I can kind of see what they're talking about. Maybe a fire extinguisher. I'm very appreciative of the piece of art. It is good. And it's simple. It pops in the middle. I like that it pops.
I thought you'd like the font.
The font is good as well. God Podcast Country. I love that family's at the bottom. The lowest row. God Podcast Country Family. I don't know. Do I put my podcast above my country? On most things, yes. On most things, I would say yes, absolutely.
Well, if you do the sign of the cross, it's actually God Family Podcast Country.
If you are the cross, right, you have to flip it. So it would be God, country. Well, the middle is...
No.
Yeah, because country would be your left shoulder. So when you're looking at it...
Don't you do top, bottom, right, left?
We do left, right.
Okay, so top, bottom, that's God Family.
Okay. God Family Podcast Country. Huh. I agree with that. I agree with that order. Congratulations.
Yes, said the resident Catholic.
Well, I wasn't thinking about the middle bottom being the bottom where family was. I was thinking that was like a skipped beat, and I never once did I associate this with the sign of the cross, but job well done, sir. You are correct. God, Family, Podcast, Country, in that order. End of the day. Thank you,
I think
Wolf.
technically it would be God, Family, Country Podcast, because if you had a necklace with that cross on it, country would be on your left.
And that's what I was saying.
God, Family, Country Podcast.
No, I put the podcast before country.
You're trying to convince people you're not a Russian stooge, Dan.
Well, I like the podcast. I will say I like more of the things that we've done on this podcast than more of the crimes that our country's done. I love my country. I fly an American flag outside of my house. I really do. But for most things, I would say I like my podcast more than my country. I think a lot of people are like that if they really get to the grassroots of what does our country do on an international stage and what does it do domestically for its people. It screws us over. I don't know. Anyways, thank you for the work of Art Wolf. He's popped into the troll room, hearing our little conversation back and forth about it. We do need a piece of art for tonight. As always, leave it up to you. Operators are standing by. Dan at MMO.show and John at MMO.show. It doesn't just have to be Wolf. It can be anybody. So if you have an idea, feel free to submit it, and we will at least consider it. And if you win, you'll be the forever artist of episode 183. So thank you very much. I'm going to take a sip of water here, and we'll move on to the fiat donations. And starting at the top of the list is none other than Colin Schultz, earning himself an executive producer credit with $100 through PayPal. And he says, gentlemen, in MMO number 182, you briefly discussed the numbers 6, 7, and the Mark of the Beast and their significance. I was most interested in Dan connecting some of these things to AI. I think you're on to something, and I wanted to add a couple of things to the conversation that you might send you down more rabbit holes, and it's related to the flood of Noah in Genesis 6. Now, this interpretation is fairly controversial and is avoided by most modern churches and seminaries because it's uncomfortable, but it is the interpretation of the early church as well as the ancient rabbis and the teachers of the Torah. On my podcast, I did 2 full episodes on Genesis 6, as well as 2 more on the various strategies of Satan, where I discuss some of the different interpretations if anyone wants a more complete picture. Anyways, to sum it up, in Genesis 6, just before the flood, we read, Now it came about when men began to multiply on the face of the land, and daughters were born to them, and the sons of God saw them, and the daughters of men were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves, whomever they chose. Genesis 6, 1-2. Now again, this is controversial because the sons of God here is in reference to angels, the same as it is in Job 1, 2, and 38, and so on. And that was the beginning here, and this was happening here, was the fallen rebellious angels were interbreeding with the human women. The results of this breeding were called the Nephilim. As we find in verse 4, the Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterwards, when the sons of God came in to the daughters of men, and they bore children unto them. Those were the mighty men who were old men of renown. Genesis 6:4. So the Nephilim were the offspring. They weren't human and they weren't angels. They were a weird, monstrous hybrid. Now, as if this interpretation wasn't controversial enough, we also see that this was part of the reason for the flood, because we read in verse 9, These are the records of the generations of Noah. Noah was a righteous man, blameless in his time. Noah walked with God. Genesis 6:9. Modern English translations render this as that Noah was blameless, and the common teaching is that Noah was a good man, and that's why God chose him. But the Hebrew word does not actually refer to Noah's moral conduct. It has to do with his genealogy. The King James says Noah was perfect in the generations, plural, which is more accurate. The meaning is that Noah had a bloodline that had not been corrupted by the mischief of the interbreeding, which had led to the Nephilim. This is fascinating. Which is why God chose him to effectively restart the human race and wipe out everyone else with the flood. Now, the way this relates to AI is as follows. Jesus said in Matthew 24 that the coming of the Son of Man will be just like the days of Noah. What I think most people don't consider is that including in that could be a reference to the reemergence of strange hybrids as there were in the days of Noah. And in recent years, I've seen more and more people being willing to merge themselves with machines, starting with wearables and progressing to neural implants, and now even marrying AI bots. The revolution could be next step forward, this reemergence. I know it's crazy, so listen to Basic Instructions Before Leaving Earth, hosted by Colin Schultz, and then search the scriptures yourself to see how crazy it really is. Stay OTO. So that was fascinating. He then sent a follow-up email with a link about China building these AI robots that have artificial wombs that can raise human babies.
Yes.
So that's wild. And we're always happy to hear from Colin Schultz. He always takes us down one of those interesting routes. But, yeah, the whole 6-7 discussion from 182, we got quite a few emails, including from Trashman. And a couple other people had chimed in on their opinions about it. So it's always appreciated to hear from people. Thank you very much. Thank you, Colin Schultz, and thank you for everyone that sparked a chord with. Up next on the list, Praetor Parekar of Peoria Diocese, Hemper Assembly M, came in through PayPal with $33.33. And she says, dues are due, OTO, my millennials.
On the offensive.
Thank you very much, Emily. Sam S. of Burblandia and Beargrass came in through PayPal with $22.22. And he says, many school districts are starting to ban phones in classrooms. Before we celebrate this, keep in mind that it's not for the sake of education. It's also to prevent video evidence from leaking out and leading to lawsuits and to limit kids being able to reach parents in case of an emergency. Stay OTO.
On the offensive.
Yep. That's a great perspective. I hadn't thought of that.
Yes, if we were serious about education, there would be cameras in every classroom.
Maybe that was Jeffrey Epstein's angle the entire time. He was just trying to get people to be serious about education. Who knows? No, I kid. Thank you, Sam. Leaf Hart comes in through Cash App with $20 and says, consider me squoze. I'm trying here. FBL OTO.
On the offensive.
Well, we sure appreciate you trying, Leaf Hart.
We do. What do you think FBL stands for?
Future business leaders.
Future business leaders on the offensive. Hey, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Leaf Hart.
You'll have to let us know.
Absolutely. Trashman comes in through PayPal with $7.77, and he says, although I'm anti any government occupation, them DC kids, to start with, will get a modern version of Deuteronomy 21:18 through 21. We're getting a lot of Bible stuff tonight. That is, if someone has a stubborn and rebellious son who does not obey his father and mother and will not listen to them when they discipline him, his father and mother shall take him to and bring him to the elders at the gate of his town. They shall say to the others, this son of ours is stubborn and rebellious, and he will not obey us. He is a glutton and a drunkard. Oh, man. I know a few of those. Then all the men of this town are to stone him to death. You must purge the evil from among you. And Israel will hear of it and be afraid. Well, yes, I hope they hear of it and are afraid. But really, this is, along with the homeless mental roundup, is just prepping them to pick us all up that have different viewpoints from that of the government eventually. Trash man. There you go. You get a little bit of both perspectives, kind of the right wing cleaning up the streets and kind of the left wing, they're coming for us all, 1984 perspective. So thank you very much, Trashman. Nlog, the Nail Lord of Gaylord, comes in through Venmo with $5, and he says, Nlog here, OTO.
On the offensive.
Little yummy donation for John City.
Little Yummy, yeah, the reference.
Oh, is that a rapper in, what do you call it, Jacksonville, Mississippi, or Jackson, Mississippi?
No. I'll have to send you something on Lil Yummy. Lil Yummy was a poster child for youth violence in Chicago around about the same time Hillary Clinton made her super predator comment.
Oh, I got you. I think we have one of the Lil Yummy's songs here.
Free Lil John Doe. Hey, free me on nigga John Doe. Free me on nigga John Doe. Hey, free me on nigga John Doe.
Lil Yummy was 11 years old at the height of his
forgot how long that was.
Fame.
11 years old?
Yep.
Lil Yummy, huh? Must have loved fruit snacks or something. Yes, thank you, Nail Lord. Up next, Sir Cascadia comes in through Cash App with $4.44. Oh, I have a read here. Here we go. Hi, Dan and John. Please see my donation of $4.44. I wants to be thanking you for your business. Stay OTO and fight the BO. Love the show, Sir Cascadia of Portland, Oregon.
On the offensive.
I just want to say, he said, when you read the 44, please say it like you're from New Jersey, and I did not do that. 444. I wants to be thanking you for your business. Stay OTO. Huh? What are you doing? You're not staying OTO? Thank you, Sir Cascadia. My New Jersey accent has been called horrible by men from New Jersey, namely Hanford Assembly M's husband, Tommy. Thank you, Sir Cascadia. Weirdo comes in through Cash App with $3.33, and he says, OTO.
On the offensive.
And thank you, Weirdo. That does it for all of our fiat donations tonight. A good showing, and much appreciated. Thank you, everybody.
Yes, and we have some Bitcoin donations. First of all, being from CoinCat with 5,000 Satoshis, who said her sexual orientation is bot. That's gold. We need a DJ to remix that clip. Well, we know a guy.
We do. Potty mouth, where you at?
Trail Chicken comes in with 5,000 Satoshis as well and says, Dan and John fighting over the AI bot. Another laughing emoji. That's the second one in a row.
Did we lose John? Can people hear me? I think we lost John. Hello? John.
Yes, my clean feed source went blank for some reason.
Oh, weird.
Yeah. Where did I leave off?
You should just talk about this, read Trail Chicken's second one.
Okay, I'll just start it from there. Put a marker down. Then Trail Chicken comes in with 5,000 Satoshis and says, Dan and John fighting over the AI bot, and also sends a laughing emoji. That's 2 in a row. That's a good sign. She says, that's a good reminder to stay on the offensive and sign up for the MMO newsletter. Bok, bok. Yes, you can sign up for the newsletter at mmo.show/newsletter.
Yes.
I try to make it weekly. It's not always weekly, but I feel like it's pretty good when I do get it out.
Agreed.
Bully Steed comes in with 1,234, and says, Club Fed news here. Remain on the offensive. #OTO, #MMO. That would have been sent tonight.
That was
during the show.
Yeah,
Boosting
live.
During the show. That is, I'm telling you, we're the bleeding edge here.
That is some technology that's 2 years old.
Things move slow, Dan.
It's true.
Salty Crayon, we haven't heard from Salty Crayon in a while. Hope you're doing well. Comes in with 1182 and says most of the problems in the U.S. is caused by the 1% fat mask-wearing Karens out there, anti-pickle, where's your dog leash, etc. OTO.
Hoorah!
Yes.
Agree with you. I sent a picture to the
spiritual enemy of MMO.
Did you see the picture I sent to the group this week? One of those people?
Yes, you were being very judgmental.
I was, but when you see a thing like that, you gotta let people know about it. Look out for her. She won't let you sell any pickles.
Everyday J. I think a new name here.
He was here last week.
Oh, really?
But he is new, relatively.
Well, Everyday J sends 1,101 Satoshis, 1101, which, what is that, what word is that in binary?
I believe that is shit. I don't know.
It's
I don't know
not
what
binary.
word that is.
What do you call that?
No, you're right. Binary, ones and zeros. I don't know what that number is, but.
Okay, I guess we'll never know. But anyway, he says OTO.
I think that might just be a single letter.
Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, thank you to everyone who sent in fiat donations, Bitcoin donations. Our streamers this week, we have Oystein Berge, who sent 2,696 Satoshis. And we also have Eric PP, who is currently streaming and has thus far streamed 1,388 Satoshis. We thank you all very much for your support. We thank you for the information, for the articles, for the comments, for listening, for telling your friends and even strangers about the show. It's greatly appreciated. We're going to keep producing the show, and if you find value in it, all we ask is that you return this value to us the way we see it. You either run ads or you risk Mossad planting something on your laptop, and we have chosen the much worse option there.
Hey, a number I don't recognize on my beeper.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Let's get back in that second half of the show.
Get it on.
And I kick the ball to you, John, to start the second half of the show.
Oh, the ball. Well, we were talking about AI in the beginning of the donation segment, and last week we touched on this, and I pulled some clips from CBS Mornings, and they just happened to be, a few days ago, talking about AI doctors on social media. So, I thought, well, that's convenient. We just talked about this last week. I wonder what CBS Mornings is talking about. And it's about social media more than AI doctors. So let's do the AI doctor salesman CBS Mornings clip.
What folder is this?
Healthcare. Doctors.
Oh. Okay, all right. You kind of took me on a little spiraled path there, so I appreciate it.
Hyper-realistic videos generated by artificial intelligence, they appear more and more online. It's a disturbing new trend that's emerging. Deep fake doctors. Clips like the ones you're seeing now mimic professionals in the medical field and in some cases use real doctors' faces, all to sell questionable products or promote questionable, unproven advice. So how can you discern reliable health information from the fake stuff? Joining us now in real life, CBS News medical contributor Dr. Celine Gounder, editor-at-large for KFF Health News. Dr. Gounder, thank you very much for being here. This is a big worry, actually, because you see it online, people trust it. How can you tell, how big of an issue is this emerging problem?
CBS News found dozens of deepfake doctor videos shared on social media, and altogether they had tens of millions of views.
Jeez.
So we spoke to Dr. Joel Bervel. He's a physician who's known for debunking medical myths and calling out bias on social media. But earlier this year, someone created a deepfake video of him to sell a product.
No.
Take a look.
It looked like me. It didn't sound like me, but it was promoting a product that I'd never promoted in the past in a voice that wasn't mine. And when we have fiction out there, or we have what are thought to be experts in a field saying something that may not be true, that distorts what is fact. And it makes it harder for the public to believe anything that comes out of science, from a doctor, from the healthcare system overall.
Yeah, it's really those two things, right? It's the danger of the bad information, and then it's the danger of the erosion of trust in information, right, Dr.?
Yeah, and this erosion of trust is really a problem with the health system, whether it's people who are upset about pharmaceutical companies charging too much money for their prescription drugs, their insurance companies denying claims. These deepfakes on social media, all of it erodes all of the trust in the health system.
Yeah, that's right.
It definitely couldn't be anything to do with COVID or the insurance companies being so bad that one of the CEOs was literally assassinated in the street. Couldn't be anything to do with that. It's got to be AI.
I thought she was getting somewhere when she mentioned Big Pharma, but then she said charging too much for drugs. I was like,
yeah,
or owning all the flow of corporate media. Oh, I don't know. That's funny.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't know if it's stupidity or if it's just drinking the Kool-Aid in the newsroom. Or even knowing, just knowing, well, they pay our bills, so this is what we're going to say. Get over
it. How do you spot these things, John?
Yeah. How do you think you spot them, Dan?
These AI docs? I don't know. If only there was a source of information on that.
So how can people tell? What are some red flags?
Oh, here we go.
Well, number 1, number 2, number 3. Okay. Are they trying to sell you something? Okay. So almost always when you see these deep fakes or any other kind of misinformation, they're trying to sell you something. So that's a huge red flag, especially if they're trying to sell you some kind of miracle product.
Okay.
A couple other things to look for. Are there glitches in the faces, or does this voice sound robotic or monotonous? Those might be clues, but AI is getting better and better with video and sound, so that's not totally reliable either.
What can the medical community do to fight this?
Well, some of it is what we can do to flag these things. So a lot of the steps that social media companies are taking to take some of these videos down are also dependent on people flagging them.
Right.
And so both Meta and TikTok, they did take down the videos that our team flagged. Meta also emphasized that these creators are actively trying to avoid detection. I mean, of course they are, right? And now health information is competing, good health information is competing with a lot of this noise, this misinformation, now supercharged by AI. Some of the sources that people can turn to as alternatives to what you find on social media, one would be websites like the Mayo Clinic or the Cleveland Clinic, professional societies like the American Academy of Pediatrics, American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology, and of course your personal physician.
Yes. Hit up your physician on my chart. Dr.
So
Gander,
they
that's
can
me.
sell you
I'm always
something.
right.
I don't know about
I'm always
that
writing. Dr. Gander, thank you so much. I'm sure your nurse will respond to me. Up next.
I went to the mayoclinic.com, and they didn't have an article about what to do if you got a Lego brick stuck in your butt. So I went and asked the AI doc, and he said a Patriot meal supply system will clean me right out.
Yeah, I think it's funny, though, that, the way to spot these things is if they're trying to sell you something. When if you go into any doctor's office with a problem, they're going to sell you something. And I understand, and it is a good way to know if someone on social media is trying to yank you around, is if they're trying to sell you something. But it's so funny to me that people just expect doctors to be selling something to the degree that they trust an obvious AI bot on social media with health advice, with purchasing advice. It's not health advice. It's purchasing advice. It's advice on how to consume things to offset the effects of over-consuming things.
Yeah, usually. That's the vast majority of health issues in this country. I've seen some of these videos. There's one where it's like this old guy. He's like an RFK-looking fella, but he's like jacked. And, this guy stops him. What's your secret? And he like goes on to this long rant, and he's like, my buddy Chuck Norris had this health. And you watch this, you can watch this thing for 20 minutes, and you still don't know what the product is, but it's like eventually leading you to sign up for some website subscription. But it's just kind of fascinating how they try to continue to couch what they're actually selling, and they just like get you to watch it, and you're watching it longer and longer. You're like, well, Chuck Norris frickin' endorses this. I bet it's awesome, And it's just like, you can tell it's appealing to that 50 to 60-year-old demographic that's not as experienced with these kind of forms of marketing and, remembers Chuck Norris from when he was a complete badass in the 90s. And it just goes on and on and on and on. So it's kind of funny. But, yeah, best of luck to everyone out there. My next door feed is flooded with boomers saying, this is a scam, look at this. And it's like, yes, this is a scam, but it's like an obvious scam. Somebody's like, I didn't order a UPS package. There was no charge for a $9,000 iPhone on my account. It was like, watch out for that. Thank you for the public service announcement. Thank you, sir. I love boomers. There's a soft spot in my heart for them.
It's almost like the very cute, cuddly looking bear in the zoo exhibit. If the bear would take every asset you've ever worked for or hoped to earn and squander it if you let them out of the cage.
That's right. They'll let you rent one of the 40 homes that they bought.
And I'm not talking about boomers in my life. I'm just talking about the general. And it used to not be and this is just something that develops with time, but the general way that people think about boomers now, especially online, is that they're going to spend all of their money so they don't have to give it to their kids. That's where that comes from. But, what is the word I'm looking for? It's the stereotype. It's the stereotype. It's the boomer stereotype.
That's right. God, family, podcast, country, boomers. The new order.
Okay, well, that's all the healthcare I've got. I've got economy clips that are kind of, I think we push them. And then I've got, we should talk about this D.C. policing that's going on.
Oh, yeah, the militarization of D.C.?
Yes, we should at least touch on this. So I've got MSNBC, the arbiter of truth in these things. And as you can imagine, they are very pro takeover of Washington, D.C.
That's right. Yeah, blue hair on fire.
Right. But they're only pro takeover because people are now watching MSNBC because, the pearl clutching and what do we do? Rachel, tell us what we do. This isn't Rachel, but this is just as good, if not better, than Rachel could ever be. Sadly, this lady is a professor that's going to be in these clips, and I don't think she's looking for a career in the media, but she would be perfect. I mean, I would watch her show every night just for the laughs. This is, the first clip is MSNBC on D.C. enforcement, and they're going to set up the rest of this segment.
Oh, boy.
In the wake of Donald Trump's attempted takeover of Washington, D.C., Republican governors have made it clear they're not only happy to support it, they can also lend a hand. 3 Republican-led governors, Patrick...
Oh, I know this lady. She's got the...
No, this isn't the lady. But, yeah, she never opens her mouth wide enough to say her words.
This lady right here?
Yeah, this lady. But this isn't the one I'm talking about.
Right? She's got the worst case of RBF I've ever seen. But I'm following you. The guest is who you were talking about.
Yes.
Yep.
Patrick Morrissey of West Virginia, Henry McMaster of South Carolina, and Mike DeWine of Ohio have all announced they're going to deploy their state's National Guard troops to D.C. in the coming days, with up to 750 troops expected. This comes amid new reporting from NBC News that some National Guard troops deployed to D.C. will begin carrying firearms to conduct their missions in the city, according to 2 U.S. officials. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser shot back at Trump's crackdown on X, writing, "American soldiers and airmen policing American citizens on American soil is un-American."
Tell that to Abraham Lincoln.
You Southerners and the Civil War.
Okay, let's hear from our superstar, Christina Greer.
Joining us now is Christina Greer, Associate Professor of Political Science at Fordham University. So let's start out with, we have some harrowing footage. It is from the Washington Post that was released just an hour ago. And we want to warn viewers that this footage is disturbing. The footage shows unidentified federal agents who are violently detaining a food delivery driver as he emerged from a D.C. coffee shop yesterday morning. This incident was captured on video, and it shows the officers throwing him to the ground and beating him before sweeping him away in an unmarked vehicle. DHS has since identified him as a Venezuelan national who they say entered the country illegally in 2023 and was ordered removed by an immigration judge last year. So, Christina, what's your reaction to that footage?
Well, I mean, this is what Donald Trump promised the American people when he was campaigning for several months. He said that he would make sure he cleaned the streets and cleaned this country of these types of people. And there are however many millions of Americans that heard that message consistently month after month and still voted for it. And so we're obviously in an escalation phase. I think a lot of people are now getting very concerned about the abdication of Congress to the president. I think they're getting extremely concerned about the courts essentially saying, you do whatever you'd like, Donald Trump. We will just sit by and allow you to do it. And so these one-time rulings. And I think that we need to have some hard conversations about local politics and ground-up support of making sure that, you know, some of the people who are your low-level city council members and state representatives who then become members of Congress or ultimately senators and governors, actually we need to start paying attention, make sure we get some of those people out of the pipeline and support other people within the pipeline so that when they're in the capacity to make these decisions, they make the right ones.
He's not going to stop at DC.
That's good. That's good. I like that. Yes. But my state also sent a detachment of National Guard to Washington, D.C. And I think this tracks with the idea, it wasn't a prediction, it was just the idea that Trump is using this to provide a template to states to do something about inner city crime. You send this small detachment to train, basically, in Washington, D.C., then they come back home and you put them on assignment. Maybe that's
I like the
opium.
idea.
Maybe I'm smoking hopium and it'll never happen, but I think it's a missed opportunity if it doesn't happen.
I'm with you there. There's extensive discussions. I read Nextdoor the way that you would read kind of like The Onion or Babylon Bee. It's just kind of humorous to me what people get all bent out of shape from. But there's boomers back and forth like talking about how horrible this is in D.C. And then there's like these guys, please God, Lord God, have our governor send him to St. Louis and Kansas City, maybe even Springfield. There's like people are fighting back and forth over this, but I like that idea a lot, that this is going to be a template for states to follow.
And where else do you hear that idea?
Right. This is the only place to hear it.
Nowhere.
On the offensive, baby.
Okay, let's hear Christina, our superstar, our MSNBC darling, talk about the mayor's role in this.
What do you make of the way that Muriel Bowser the mayor in D.C., has navigated all of this? At times, she's pushed back. You just saw that tweet a moment ago, calling all this un-American. But in other ways, she's also said that she's willing to collaborate with federal partners. She's been very careful in how she chooses her words at press conferences. Right. And then, of course, you know, people were angry with her for going to Martha's Vineyard for a moment to pick up her daughter. How do you see her role in all this? As so many people, as you just spelled out, they're looking to their local representation to show them the fight. Is she doing enough?
Right. And so when we were together the other night, and I said, you know, the second hardest job is mayor of New York City. The hardest job is the presidency. But LBJ was very clear that the hardest job in America is being a mayor of a major city. She's in a very difficult position because there's descriptive representation. She is a black woman as an executive. So we know already Donald Trump just sees red, and it makes him very angry whenever he sees leadership that is not white and male, because he does not believe in diversity, equity, or inclusion. He said that. The second part is because of the structure of Washington, D.C. and home rule, and was put in place in 1973, and there's this kind of shared structure. They don't have senators that they can rely on. They don't have a governor that they can call on. There is this relationship with the federal government. She's in a very difficult position because they are essentially in the same home in some ways. I think some D.C. residents want a lot more than a tweet that says this is un-American. Some D.C. residents recognize, well, what is she to do? There is no one essentially higher than her. You know, Eleanor Holmes Norton, who's the representative in Congress, doesn't even have a vote. So I think it's a position that is incredibly difficult. Descriptively as a black woman, substantively as a Democrat, dealing with a Republican president who is very clear that he wants sort of Washington, D.C. And we know that crime is a proxy for African Americans. We know that Washington, D.C. is a majority black city. So he can sort of say all this coded, not coded language when he's talking about cleaning up the streets. And I think everyone in D.C. knows what that is.
That's right. Crime is a dog whistle for black people. That's probably the most racist thing I've ever heard someone say.
Yeah, and she just doesn't realize.
I mean, she's black, right?
Yes, she is. She is.
I could tell.
Okay.
Oh, man.
We've got one more of these, and I'm going to be so sad when it's over.
This is what these people are still. They're still doing this over at MSNBC. This is what lost the election. This framework, this mindset. But okay,
This is MSNBC gold.
I know.
She could replace Joy Reid.
She could, because Joy Reid's no longer there. They need a sultry black woman.
Maybe it's a tryout. Maybe it's the the Queen Olympics. It's the Queen tryouts, the resident Queen tryouts for MSNBC. How much can you make this story about racism? Well, Donald Trump sees red when he sees a black woman in leadership. You're hired.
Yeah, despite Omarosa serving in his first administration in a high spot.
Yeah, but he's told us that he hates black women because he hates DEI. You see?
Man, oh man, this is fun.
Okay, well, let's get the rap. It doesn't get any less fun in the rap.
And so, thinking about growing up as a black person in young cities, a lot of black communities are both under-policed and over-policed simultaneously. And so they do want to have safe streets. Absolutely. It's a major city. It's not devoid of crime. But they don't want hyper-over-policing where they're afraid to actually walk down the street. And when you've got 750 new people who come in who don't know Washington, D.C., they don't know the culture of Washington, D.C., they don't even know the streets of Washington, D.C., that puts a lot of families much more on edge because they wonder what their children are going to feel.
That's right. No, officer, you don't understand the culture of DC. We steal a little bit from stores. That's not what
theft under 1,000, officer.
That's right. It's the people that are shooting into crowds. That's who you go after. And that has been, I've heard the coverage behind this when the DC is even all the news anchors on TV are like, well, DC it's pretty dangerous, after the whole 30-year crime low narrative fell flat on their face. Over the past week, it's now been, well, something does need to change in D.C., but it's not this. And it's the exact same narrative surrounding Trump and the Ukraine. Like, oh, we want peace here, but not the way Trump's trying to do it. We got to go about it in a different route, not the way that Trump does it. It's just funny to me. I love that. They've been over-policed and under-policed, right?
At the same time.
They need the baby bear policing. It needs to be just right.
Yes. Was it Baby Bear's porridge that was just right?
Yeah, I thought so.
Okay, yeah.
Papa's was too cold, Mama's was too warm, and Baby Bear's was just right. I got to brush up on those. I forget all of those.
Yes, you will. You will brush up on those.
Yeah, I'd imagine. I gotta learn some creepy German fairy tales that I can tell the kids.
Oh, they're great, especially if you look into the history of them while you're learning them. They're actually fascinating and creepy.
Like Frampus.
Yeah.
This guy's gonna
Jack
come down
and
your
Jill.
chimney and kill you. Jack and Jill, the guy that'll snip your thumbs off if you suck them. The Germans are great. You don't want to have your thumb cut off by a giant pair of scissors in the middle of the night, do you? No wonder they did the Holocaust. Those people are fucked. Oh, language warning. All right. Where are we going after that?
Well, on the language warning, let's go to a faith segment.
Okay, perfect. Get right with God.
Yes. You're going to get right with Doug Wilson because he's forming a new church in D.C.
Oh, boy. Is it the anti-federal policing Church of Jesus Christ?
No, but there is a great example of your classic, well, I don't even know what to call her. You'll hear her in one of these clips somewhere along the way. It's fantastic. But anyway, Doug Wilson, new church in D.C.
A new church has quietly opened here in Washington, just 3 blocks from the nation's capital. The Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth attended the first service. The church is part of the Communion of Reformed Evangelical Churches, and its aim is global Christian domination under a strict interpretation of the Bible. In this Situation Room special report, my colleague Pamela Brown went to Moscow, Idaho, to meet the controversial pastor behind it.
Christchurch senior pastor Doug Wilson makes no apologies for his beliefs on God and country.
I'd like to see the town be a Christian town. I'd like to see the state be a Christian state. I'd like to see the nation be a Christian nation. And I'd like to see the world be a Christian world.
And now Wilson's controversial views as a Christian nationalist are gaining sway in the nation's center of power with the recent opening of his new church and high-profile parishioners like Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth.
Is planting a church in D.C. part of your mission to try to turn this into a Christian nation?
Yes. So every society is theocratic. The only question is who's theo? In a secular democracy, it would be demos, the people. In a Christian republic, it'd be Christ.
Well, what would you say to someone watching this to say, look, I'm a Muslim. Who are you to say your worldview is better than mine, that your God is better than mine?
Well, if I went to Saudi Arabia, I would fully expect to live under their God's rules.
But you said earlier that you want this to be a Christian world.
Yes.
So you want to supplant their religion with your Christian.
Yes, by peaceful means, by sharing the gospel. There's a lot of work yet to do. I believe that we are working our little corner of the vineyard.
Wilson's Little Corner,
Ooh,
a
the
picturesque
vineyard.
campus nestled on the outskirts of downtown Moscow, Idaho, is growing by the day with thousands of like-minded Christians. Parishioners of his church, known as Kirkers, own and operate several businesses downtown next to liberal college town stores.
Oh boy. How dare these like-minded Christians join a church that they believe in and agree with? The humanity. He wants to supplant Saudi Arabia with, he wants to make them Christian. Imagine the oil deals we'll have here if that happens. I support you, Doug.
Be going places for free.
Pretty much.
Yes. Do you know where the name Kirkers comes from?
No, I was wondering that myself.
The Scottish word for church is kirk. So they're literally calling themselves churchers.
Oh, nice. But Scotland is a white country, so we could tie that in a little bit on MSNBC later if we wanted.
Well, you know, you're asking for way too much sophistication for an evening news segment.
Well, yeah, they gave it to Pamela Brown. They don't even trust her with her own show. They got to have Brolf babysitter.
All right, let's hear, obviously, about the patriarchy.
Of course.
A big focus of his Christian movement is on a patriarchal society where men are dominant and women are expected to submit to their husbands.
Women are the kind of people that people come out of.
So you just think they're meant to have babies. That's
Well,
it. They're just a vessel.
No, it doesn't take any talent to simply reproduce biologically. The wife and mother, who is the chief executive of the home, is entrusted with 3 or 4 or 5 eternal souls.
I'm here as a working journalist, and I'm a mom of 3.
Good for you.
Is that an issue for you?
No, it's not automatically an issue.
Josh and Amy Prince, along with their 4 kids, moved here from Washington State.
Do you see Amy as your equal?
Yes and no. In the sense that we're both saved by grace, we're absolutely on equal footing. But we have very different purposes, God-given.
But do you see yourself as the head of the household, as the man?
He is the head of our household.
Yes.
Yes, and I do submit to him.
So, like, moving here was
gonna say that.
ultimately your decision.
Yes.
That's a great
great example.
Do you see yourself as the man of your house? Yes. Yes, I do.
Well, you know, they have to ask these things because what is a man?
That's true. It has no meaning or no wordplay. Yeah, I'm so glad to fall squarely in the middle between this kind of stuff. Like, I agree with a lot of things that this church is doing, but at the same time, I don't feel like I need to join a church around it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But I'm glad these people exist to, make sure that Overton window doesn't shift so far one direction.
Yeah. Okay, well, obviously, we've talked about the patriarchy. The next logical step is to talk about the 19th Amendment.
Oh, boy. Repeal it. Empress Emily M. Is the biggest proponent of repealing the 19th.
Wilson says in his vision of a Christian society, women as individuals shouldn't be able to vote. His fellow pastors, Jared Longshore and Toby Sumter, agree.
In my ideal society, we would vote as households. And I would ordinarily be the one that would cast the vote, but I would cast the vote having discussed it with my household.
But what if there's your wife doesn't want to vote for the same
Right.
person as you?
Right. Well, then that's a great opportunity for a good discussion.
There are some who have gone so far as to say that they want the 19th Amendment repealed.
I would support that. And I'd support it on the basis that the atomization that comes with our current system is not good for humans.
And Wilson, a veteran himself, is unapologetic about his view that women shouldn't be in certain leadership or combat roles.
Looking at the leadership page for Christ Church,
Right.
It's all men. Do you accept women in leadership roles in the church and government?
In the church, no.
Why?
Because the Bible says not to.
Well, that's not what happens in the Bible. Women do lead all the time.
Progressive faith leader Reverend Jennifer Butler is concerned about Wilson's growing influence.
He is rapidly gaining in power. He has hundreds of churches established around the country. They actually literally want to take over towns and cities, and they have access to this administration.
No.
Oh no, people in the administration are free associating.
That's terrible. I really hope that doesn't go anywhere, just for your progressive sake. When are women leading in the Bible all the time? I mean, there's...
I'm sure she's talking about Esther. I'm sure she's talking about Mary Magdalene.
Ruth.
I mean, basically she's saying there are women in the Bible.
Yeah, of course there are. And again, I have no problem with women in leadership roles at all. But at the same time, it's like, I really, you might be this progressive member of this progressive church that probably, has one of those pride flags and all are welcome in this place, which is good. If that works for some people, that's what people want. They can do that. But at the same time, it doesn't necessarily mean you're the truth behind the Bible in your presentation of it. But I'm just a Catholic.
Well, there's a chance I'm wrong here, but I think Esther provides an opportunity to be an inspiration for women, not so much in the way of a girl boss, but in the way of advocating for one's people under the circumstances that exist. Because I don't think Esther ever had any leadership positions among the Israeli people. She advocated for the reestablishment of a Jewish homeland to the Persian king at the time. And there could be something I'm missing here. It's been quite a while since I read anything from the book of Esther, because I'm just a terrible misogynist. But I think that's the takeaway here is you don't have to just be resigned to history, even if you accept the role of women within the Bible. And by the way, I think a lot of the teachings about women in leadership in the Bible comes from Paul, who was essentially parroting existing Jewish culture at the time, or Jewish tradition. Didn't have anything to do with Jesus saying that women can't be leaders in the church.
Right.
But again, this is the kind of thing that it's like, who cares?
Exactly.
You know, if everyone in your church agrees, then you agree.
Right. And
if you don't agree, go to another church.
That's kind of the whole, why people form churches. It's like a club of people that agree on stuff.
Yes.
So let's do a news story about it. Oh, man. Have you heard about jihad? You guys should really look into those Muslim people over there.
Okay, so let's talk about the Trump administration and their ties.
Actually, it would be funny if she went to an Islamic church and asked about female leadership. But I digress.
Wilson is part of a broader Christian nationalist movement making inroads with the Trump administration, with a newly created faith office led by evangelical pastor Paula White Cain, and people seen right outside the White House entrance praying and speaking in tongues.
We are standing on the soil of the White House, and we are declaring your word.
How precious.
And now there's a monthly prayer service at the Pentagon, initiated by Hegseth, Wilson's highest level connection to the administration.
It's not organizationally tied to us, but it's the kind of thing we love to see.
For his part, Hegseth has publicly praised Wilson.
Now we're standing on the shoulders of a generation later, the Doug Wilsons and the others.
Wilson's influence spans the globe with more than 150 churches. Lennox Califungwa moved to Moscow from Africa.
It's really because I wanted to be a part of a community that was doing something, and especially in building Christian institutions.
Are there other black families in this community?
Oh, absolutely. There's a few black families.
Wilson maintains all are welcome to his church, but he's also not shying away from his past controversial statements on race.
Do you still believe what you said back in the 90s, that there's a mutual affection between master and slave?
Yes, it depends on which master and which slave you're talking about. Slavery was overseen and conducted by fallen human beings, and there were horrendous abuses, and there were also people who owned slaves who were decent human beings and didn't mistreat them. I think that system of chattel slavery was an unbiblical system, and I'm grateful it's gone.
What he also wants gone, same-sex marriage, because he thinks homosexuality is a crime.
In the late 70s and early 80s, sodomy was a felony in all 50 states. That America of that day was not a totalitarian hellhole.
So you would like America to go back to that?
Yep.
Pamela Brown discovers Christians. How can you still believe this? It's 2025.
Put a marker down for our intro there. Yeah, and to say that he believes it's a crime is false, technically. He doesn't believe it's a crime. He knows that those laws have gone away.
Right. He believes it's a sin, I imagine.
Right. So ridiculous.
Oh,
okay,
man.
well, last one. Let's hear about the ultimate goal.
Wilson maintains his ultimate goal is to bring about the second coming of Christ through his work, and rejects critics' claims he's trying to make the dystopian world of The Handmaid's Tale a reality.
I'm not a white nationalist. I'm not a fascist. I'm not a racist. I'm not a misogynist.
How far off do you see a Christian nation, like a full-on Christian theocracy?
Oh, 250 years.
250 years.
Yeah, honestly, that's yes.
What you see. But you do think it will happen?
Yes, I do. We're not going to usher in anything ourselves. We're really genuinely pioneers.
And thanks to our Pamela Brown for that very special report. CNN, by the way, reached out to the U.S. Defense Department to inquire about Secretary Hegseth's relationship with Doug Wilson. A spokesperson said Hegseth is, quote, a proud member of the network of churches founded by Wilson, and that the secretary, quote, very much appreciates many of Mr. Wilson's writings and teachings, end quote.
End quote. Very good. Yeah. Very, very fun report, John.
Yeah. It's always some guy that the mainstream media, New York Times, whoever, they've got to latch onto and say, this is the new thought leader of the Christian nationalists, of the far right. It's the monarchy, the tech monarchy of Mencius Moldbug. It's the Christian nationalism, anti-gay sex is illegal, Doug Wilson. There's always a boogeyman.
Right, but you gotta consistently, like, this is everything is a puzzle piece, and so in the world that we're living in, reality has shifted. The left and the mainstream media have become the conspiracy theorists now, right? Now all of a sudden now they're interested in Epstein, and I saw a segment today that it was never released on YouTube, so I couldn't bring it. But a guy was effectively claiming that he believes Epstein didn't kill himself, and it was the I forget his last name, but Boris on CNN was like, this is interesting. That's good. That's a compelling argument. Going on and on. So this is the new conspiracy theory. This is what Trump wants to do. This is his master plan. He's going to take this and he's going to stamp it 50 times across the United States. We'll be a Christian nation, and Pamela Brown will have to resort to being a mother and not a journalist. That is the story.
Poor Pamela.
Poor Pamela, indeed. We had got a message on Twitter. I didn't actually look at it in time, but you remember we had that kind of semi-red heifer update?
Yes.
Well, we got a message on Twitter from Mike Crotch, and he sent us a Stu Peters video of this Jewish guy on Tim Pool's show, claiming that they've sacrificed a red heifer, and that it was a misleading nomer that the red heifer had sprouted 3 non-red hairs and was just killed and not used. So this guy is claiming now on Tim Pool's show that it was actually the red heifer was burned alive and the ritual has taken place. So now they can destroy the second temple and build the third temple, which is where the Al-Aqsa Mosque sits on top of.
Do they have to destroy the second temple? The second temple's gone. It was destroyed by Rome. But they'd have to destroy the Al-Aqsa Mosque,
which sits on the base of the second temple, which was not fully destroyed, according to the people that should not be trusted, or God's chosen people.
Okay. Iran, you're up.
Time to kick it off. There it is. That was your red heifer update.
Where's the beef? Where's the beef?
Still a favorite of mine. I had to get it in there somehow. Thank you, Mike Crotch, for that article submission.
Funny enough, my Southern Baptist pastor mentioned that the test run heifer had actually been sacrificed, and they could use those ashes to consecrate the third temple in our Sunday night Bible study, which I never was able to find that in the Bible, but anyway.
Yeah, nor can I. Whenever somebody brings that kind of stuff up, it's always like, I don't know about that, but we'll see. I'm always here for it. I'm here for it, just like my 6 discussion, and everyone was really fired up about the 6 and 7. We got like 3 different responses from people about it. Yeah, the test heifer. That was the test heifer.
The test heifer.
They're pretty much debugging their script, making sure that the syntax was correct before the real thing goes.
Yeah.
Plus Glenn Beck didn't do a doom and gloom second coming of the Christ stream this week, so I figured we're probably safe. He's got his finger on the pulse. That's right. I buy gold in Patriot Meal System Supply. Hello, Adam Murray. Welcome to my show.
That's something that's interesting. If Glenn Beck ever does a show that's gloom and doom and foretelling of destruction, and you don't hear an ad, that's when you should worry.
That's right. If he's just trying to get out information to you, maybe he might be onto something. But he's predicted the collapse of the world many times over now.
Well, that's what you have to fight against falling into as someone with any kind of influence. Because you keep these suckers listening by keeping them on edge, by keeping their amygdala inflamed and keeping their primal instincts on edge. And you fall into that, and you've got a solid audience that will do that, but you're doing something that's fundamentally, I believe, immoral in order to keep a job.
Yeah, I'm just reading some of the titles of his videos this week. Seems like he's had a pretty slow news week himself. The most complete look at the deep state we've ever seen. Oh my God, I gotta watch that now. If you're taking advice from a guy named Glenn, stop.
Have you ever seen the Donald Duck parody cartoon where he is Donald Duck gets put out of a job and he finds Glenn Beck on a radio and gets enamored with Glenn Beck?
Oh yes, I saw this recently. Actually, it's pretty old.
It's pretty good, is what it is.
I think I've seen a version of this with Rush Limbaugh as well. That was one of my favorite Family Guy episodes where Rush Limbaugh turns Brian into a Republican. The liberal media. I've got your Rush Limbaugh hit right here. Boomer Talk 11:30. Oh, it's not playing. Oh well.
Oh well. I've got one more clip. You got anything else?
I've got a couple of things. Some fun stuff. Some fun stuff.
You're tapering off like there's nothing left.
That's right. No, I got some stuff. You want me to play some stuff?
Be my guest.
All right. The Canadians are protesting and grounded the entire Air Canada for an entire weekend, delaying 100,000 flights.
After a weekend of chaos, this morning the status of Air Canada's flight schedule is still up in the air amid an historic flight attendant strike.
Listen to those puns.
The airline, which operates roughly 700 flights a day, halted all operations Saturday, leaving an estimated 100,000 travelers with nowhere to go. That includes Tyler Lanigan, who was stuck in Toronto.
So now the game is like, how do we get our passports in time?
He was visiting family with his 6-month-old baby and is now forced to fly from Buffalo to Seattle, asking friends and family on Facebook, is anyone from Vancouver able to come grab us from Seattle on Tuesday night?
It's like asking someone to come grab you, like take a 6-hour drive across the border.
The work stoppage wreaking havoc at airports.
Our flight's supposed to take off today, but it's been canceled.
Canada's government had ordered flight attendants to return to work on Sunday in hopes of allowing the country's largest airline to resume limited operations, but their flight attendants union tore up that order, grounding 240 flights.
I'm expected to end this strike.
Air Canada and the union have been negotiating for months. The main point of contention for the flight attendants, they're only paid while the plane is moving and not before or in between flights.
We just want to be compensated fully and fairly for all the hours that we are at work.
Air Canada says it will offer impacted customers refunds and credits or try to rebook them on another carrier, but admits that may be difficult because capacity is currently limited due to the peak summer travel season. That's something Dwan Thibodeau found out after a surprise trip for her 13-year-old son's birthday was canceled.
When we went on to try to book another flight, there was nothing available.
So even if you wanted to try to preserve some portion of your trip, that option isn't available now.
Exactly. And when we looked for another airline, the price was thousands of dollars more than what we paid.
Aha. And you know what? I'm thinking, I was listening to Behind the Schemes last night with Lavish, and he did an interesting breakdown of airline points and how people are effectively paying more for flights to help offset the cost of people that are using airline points, and talked about the whole airline point economy and credit card points. And it was quite fascinating. I checked that out live every Monday. Behind the Schemes is live. Good podcast. But yeah, effectively, Air Canada's, the Canadian government was like, go back to work. You have to. And the union said, no, we're not going to. And they didn't. and I think it's broken now, but it did delay flights all weekend. Broke the thing, and this is on theme to last week when we were talking about Mexico forcing Adidas to apologize for cultural appropriation. It's like it's like the same thing. We named our episode last week Atlas Mugged because of that, and it's again another example of Atlas Shrugged coming to life, where socialist Canada and socialist Mexico are falling apart at the seams, and we're too busy worrying about this fascist guy who wants world peace and to stop violent crime. So terrible thing. And he thinks women make babies. Unreal. This false information will not stand. All right, what do you have?
All I've got is a pet clip. One pet clip left.
Well, we'll save it. Let's see. There's a new workplace trend. Have you heard of the new one? You've heard of quiet quitting?
Yeah, I didn't pay much attention to this. I thought it was just on its surface kind of gimmicky.
It is. It's quiet cracking, and this is people that are stressed out because of AI replacing their jobs. They're quiet cracking, where they're needing to seek medical help because of their worries over AI and
I thought that's what you did when the in-laws came over.
Quiet cracking. That's right. You were in the bathroom for a long time. I'm not feeling well. I wasn't quiet cracking or anything. Okay, I've got an article here about new words added to the Cambridge Dictionary, 2 of which include skibbity and tradwife. So, as words are meaningless and more meaningless, we're adding words like skibbity and tradwife to the Bible, or to the Bible, to
the Bible,
the dictionary. Skibbity.
Jesus said, "Get behind thee, skibbity."
That's right. Take up a tradwife. Skibbity ponches. Yeah, so tradwife, short for traditional wife. I refer to my wife as a take off semi-charmed kind of life. I call her my semi-trad kind of wife because she's really good at baking bread and gardening and making pickles, and she wears a lot of those dresses with sleeves on them.
Oh, yes. Typical.
But she also works and sometimes swears, so semi-trad. But she doesn't post on media. And so this is the definition of it. Tradwife is a shortened form of traditional wife, a married mother who cooks, cleans, and posts on social media. I think the post on social media aspect of it's misconstrued by the women that are claiming to be tradwives online.
Some influencers are trad wives, but not all trad wives are influencers.
No, of course not.
Or attempting to be.
There's one girl, I forget her name, DeLuca, Isabel DeLuca, and she wants to be a trad wife, and she always posts these like annoyingly conservative videos of just regurgitating whatever the news said. And then she's like, I'm a trad wife. She does a video of her baking, and then like the next photo is her in a bikini with her massive jugs out. You're like, you're not a trad wife. That's thought behavior, which they did not add to the dictionary this year. Just skibbity and tradwife. And mouse jiggler is a new term that evidently people are using, and broligarchy.
Mouse jiggler?
Mouse jiggler. That's for making sure your computer doesn't go to sleep while you work from home.
Oh, I see.
A representative of Cambridge Dictionary says, we only add words where we think they'll have staying power. That's right, broligarchy. People are going to be using that forever.
Yeah.
And
what
mouse
a joke
jiggler.
Of a statement
mouse jiggler. Oh my God! I swear, boomers are everywhere, man. They're infiltrating all the institutions. Got to weed them out. But I think that does it for my clips here. Let me just take a peruse down the list. Yeah, I'm tapped.
Okay, well, let's learn about dog health.
Dog health, inbound.
Tonight, the largest study of its kind showing dogs can actually mirror their owner's health. researchers in the U.S. monitoring more than 26,000 dogs. The study revealing dogs and owners can develop many of the same chronic conditions, including hypertension, diabetes, and arthritis, because they likely share the same environment as their owners.
Yeah, if you're eating cookies and your dog begs for cookies and you feed your dog cookies, you're probably both going to get diabetes.
Yeah.
If you don't walk your dog,
Pretty obvious.
and you're not walking, then yeah, probably your dog is going to get hypertension or whatever a fat dog syndrome is called.
Yeah, I still haven't figured out what the red heifers and their fate say about the Jews, but I'm working on it.
Honestly, I take my dog for walks, and he like barks at people and other dogs, and is a general disdain for anyone that approaches the house at all. So I'd say he's probably exactly like his father, which is good. And he doesn't let anyone near Mom when he's out and about on a walk, which is also like me.
That's a good boy.
That is a good boy. A boy that I appreciate.
You are not
a fag. That was for Ralph. I just wanted to make sure he knew.
Oh, I got you.
But also, I missed the button. You would think after nearly 4 years of doing the show, I'd know where my soundboard buttons that have not changed once are.
Nope.
Muscle memory, folks. Alrighty. Well, if a red heifer is sacrificed and Jesus Christ returns until next Tuesday, we'll be here again. In the unlikely event of a second coming of Christ, please pull down on the oxygen mask. The bag will not inflate fully. Doug Wilson will be right. Pam Brown will shriek in horror. Oh no. Not this Jesus fella. You should hear the extreme thing he believes. Oh, 183 episodes in the bag. Hard to believe sometimes.
Yeah, it kind of is. Surreal.
It is surreal. It's like a fun hobby we started, that we keep doing, and people seem to like it. I wonder what my semi-trad kind of wife has got cooking for dinner. I can smell it. Smells like misogyny. But from St. Louis, Missouri, I've been Dan Gehring.
And from America's South Coast, where that's another one in the books, I've been John G. Dew.
And if you're a lady listening to The Offensive, be sure to do exactly what your husband tells you to do and fetch his slippers and some tea. You wouldn't want him getting angry with you now, would you? Just kidding.
Submit.
Lube your slide, keep it loaded, even if you're a lady. MMO out.
Tonight, the largest study of its kind showing...
The largest study of its kind. I wonder if they ever question the words on the screen.
No, it's not their job.
Oh, Rando 7143 is for pregnant wife tip, lots of foot rubs. I'm going to have to ask Elise to rub my feet tonight, apparently.
Very good.
Deeper, woman. I forget. Everyone forgets John prefers men to rub his feet. A weird.
You don't have to worry about any pressure. You don't have to worry about lack of pressure.
A weird inside joke that started a couple episodes ago, but I love it.
You really didn't understand the quiet cracking comment, did you?
Was that not a jerking it off in the bathroom reference?
No.
Oh, it was just like your in-laws are in and you are freaking losing your mind.
No. God.
Oh, I get it now.
In-laws?
So you have to quietly whip your wife?
In a way, sure.
Yeah. Crack the whip. Damn it, get them out of here. If that woman reorganizes one more thing, I swear to God. I actually like my in-laws. There's a I think you should leave skit where it's like, oh, he actually loves his mother-in-law. Yeah, I do. Oh, he admitted. They're like making fun of him because he likes his mother-in-law. And it's funny because I actually really enjoy my mother-in-law. She's a nice lady.
I like my mother-in-law too.
That's good. That's good. I am not just saying that because she listens to this show. I actually do like her. She's a very nice human being. Okay, show titles. Not a Buddy Song. Episode. Abortion of the Truth. Journalism with
Let's not call it that.
Abortion of the Truth. Journalism with an Agenda. KM. Large International Package. Mad in Korea. Being Mad in Korea. OnlyKims. Club Fed.
OnlyKims is good.
OnlyKims is good. Club Fed. FedWiki. Virginia Jew Frey. Which he did say. He said Jew Frey. Pierogi Provocation.
He really did say Jew Frey.
He did say it. Pierogi Provocation. Pierogi Addict. Pierogies for Palestine. Did we say that?
No.
Okay, I was going to say, that's funny, but I don't remember that. It said, not supported by Stamps.com. Podcast Before Country. God, Family, Podcast, Country, Boomers. Smoking Copium. Smoking Hopium. Queen Olympics. Hyper Over Policing. Who's Theo? There are women in the Bible? That's not a question. There are women in the Bible is a statement. I'm Ron Burgundy. Adding Skibbity to the Bible. Skibbity Tradwife. Semi-Trad. Mouse Jiggler. Semi-Trad Kind of Wife. Skibbity Skeptic Offensive.
Is that it?
That's it. That was a long list. I don't know if you heard me reading them.
Yes, I did. I heard you reading them. Yes.
That's like 40.
Yeah, is that it? I mean, what are your favorites? We got to slim it down to like 4 and then pick between those.
All right. OnlyKims.
Club Fed.
Pierogi Provocation is funny. I think that's good. Semi-Trad. Only Skibbity. Let's see what the people are saying. Only Skibbity. I like Smoking Hopium. It's lighthearted yet doomy. I missed that bit though. Okay. Club Fed was the favorite of the chat room, says Serpent.
My favorite is OnlyKims.
OnlyKims? It is funny. It does get you to say, what is this about? Oh, Cotton Gin says, I think you should save Club Fed for your donations tier, like Dames and Knights, members of Club Fed. Wouldn't they be members of Club Not a Fed? Ex-members of Club Fed. Maybe. Water.
You hear me drink water?
No, I drank water. I'm doing what you did earlier.
For peace. President Trump thought that for peace. President Trump thought
Oh, I did it to myself. I was like, what? Okay. You know what? You're right. He does want to do the USSR. He's not going to stop at Ukraine. We should have a war.
Okay, I'll just start.
And support other people within the pipeline so that when they're in the capacity to make these decisions, they make the right ones.
He's not going to stop at DC. He's not going to stop at DC. There's that one. And what is this one?
70s and early 80s. That America of that day was not a totalitarian hellhole.
So you would like America to go back to that?
Yep.
Pamela Brown discovers Christians. What do you think? Those are the two.
That one's my favorite.
You like that one? I like that. I'll go for it. Badoo, badoo. Only because I have some feet to rub. Do 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 do. I like that idea, Cotton Gin. Don't be a member of Club Fed. Join the offensive.
Get it on.
Not bust.
Parent, by this.
Fair enough.
You corrected yourself. Run it back.
Offensive podcast is now live.
That's right. It's August 19th, 2025. This is episode number 183. I did not say episode.
You said episode.
Whatever.
You said episode.
Like your pubic area.
It must be.
Then I stepped on it again.
I think we should be clean, smooth.
Smooth, like your pubic area.
It must be quite apparent by this time.
Hold on, I was talking over that.
Yeah, but maybe don't step on the intro with pubic area.
Maybe don't step on my pubic area. Okay. Doing a podcast on a Tuesday night. What the hell else are you going to do on a Tuesday night? Pamela Brown discovers Christians.
It must be quite apparent by this time to
Bam.
any thinking individual.
That's a podcast. I need to pull a Potty Mouth song. Oh, my name is Potty Mouth and I like turtles.